Lewis Kerr.
So welcome to The Late Show Live. Joining me this evening, my panel. And in Washington, I've got the former Urbana Policy Advisor, Laurie Watkins, and Republican strategist, Matthew Hurt. Thank you for joining us tonight. So tonight, Nigel Farage is under fire, accused of whipping up anger and tribalism with his comments about Henry Novak's murder. In a statement this morning, the Reform UK leader called on the public to respond to the case with pure, cold rage.
But the most important thing that needs to change, that has to change, if our society is not to be ripped apart, where communities start to distrust each other and deeply distrust the police and all the other institutions of this country, is we need a change in culture. Enough of anti-white prejudice. A promotion of the idea that white lives matter just as much as black lives. An end to DEI and positive discrimination, but a country that treats everybody equally and fairly before the law.
Well, the Prime Minister reacted by slamming Nigel Farage this afternoon.
I think Nigel Farage's reaction is the wrong reaction. And I start my answer to your question through the eyes of the family. They have said they do not want this whipped up. They have been through the most extraordinary, awful experience. They don't want this whipped up. And Nigel Farage is completely wrong to use this to try and create division.
And here was the Conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch.
We also don't need rage, which is what Nigel Farage is pushing. We need courage. We need bravery. We need to be able to stand up and say, George Floyd happened in another country. We are different. We need to be able to say, no, we're not bringing in segregation or race-based laws or two-tier policing or anything like that based on people's physical appearance or their religion.
But are they being a bit Nigel Farage obsessed, and are they actually missing the point? Should they not be talking about the knife crime problem in our country, the sort of knives that killed Henry Novak and left him in a pool of blood as police handcuffed and arrested him? Well, we're joined now by knife crime campaigner Ken Hines. Ken, welcome to the programme. Very tragic, really, with Henry Novak, frankly, and the behaviour of the police. I'm a little confused at what they were doing. If you hear someone can't breathe and that they've been stabbed, that would be the first port of call. I just wanted to ask you, can you understand their behaviour?
Yes, I can, because part of their training is that when you're going off on a call, you are going to listen to what your controller is telling you. Now, let's keep the focus on the people responsible. That's the perpetrator, the mother, and the people that was in that space of that family. They are the one that has contributed to this. Not one of them said that young man was stabbed and how many times was stabbed. They misled the police, even though the police was naive. But that is all about the type and quality of police we are now having in our community. Some of them can be a danger not only to themselves or their colleague, but as we see, to the public as well.
Yeah,
so personally, as I said, I do work with the police as a community facilitator at Hendon. I do see that my one take is that they're too wrapped up in cotton wool, and they're not being prepared, street ready to go and work in some tough communities. But on this occasion, I would say that that's not the police training. That was just a wrong call by a young police officer who made it. But what we should be doing is bringing in the wider race element, because I don't want no one telling me that I have not faced racial discrimination, I have not faced violence by the police over decades. And now that this has happened, they're saying, oh no, you've gone too far. So all those reports, that's the Lawrence report, the Macpherson report, the Lammy report, that all highlights the different treatment I, as a black man, has faced over decades. And I don't want this situation, horrendous situation, to belittle what me and other black men have gone through.
I don't think it does. I think it talks about the extremes. So it's talking about one extreme where they're black people and people of colour were treated very badly by the police. Nobody will deny that. But then they've gone to the other extreme, sort of getting a bit too, as you said, cotton woolly. They've been given all this DEI, but they've taken it to the extreme where they're ignoring what they're hearing and going with what have we been taught about this race thing and being a little bit confused. They've been given mixed messaging. I think a lot of people would just say, look, forget about the colour, just deal with the situation, your preconceptions of what something might be. I think this is an exact example of preconceptions of something which then lead to bad judgment. And that is racism either way. So whether it's white or whether it's on black, it is totally unacceptable. But
for racism, you've got to have power. And I do take it the police have got power.
Yes.
In this situation, the way that they exercise it was totally wrong, out of order. And I said, what about the other colleagues that were around him? This young man was screaming for help.
Yeah.
When I say screaming, he was begging for help.
Begging, yes.
There was blood on the floor. And then they've asked him, well, where you been stabbed? Absolutely astonishing.
And he even said, I don't think so, mate. It is astonishing. When I see the footage, when I hear what the father said, it just literally it brings me to tears because I just feel for that poor young lad who, by all accounts, was a lovely young man and just being treated so badly. But why? Why were they treated so badly? Wrong call. Wrong call. What made them think that they should listen to somebody who's just said that, oh, well, somebody called me a racist name, which I respect is you're not allowed to be racist. But then when you hear that somebody's been stabbed, I would think that would supersede everything else. But look, it does highlight another thing. If you take race out of the equation, this man was allowed to carry a knife, a kirpan, which is part of the Sikh faith, even though it was an oversized kirpan, and I don't even think it's been allowed. But it turns out that he had a history of knives and violent weapons, as it seems that a couple of years before this, he was thrown out of the Sikh temple because he stole over £1,000 worth of knives, as it was. So there is a real problem with knives. If you forget about the race, there seems to be a problem.
I'm not so much about the race. I'm looking at the perpetrator's mother. She would have known what's gone on. Should have had an indication of what's happening, but yet she said nothing to try to save that young man's life, or to put the police on point to say, look, this is what's gone on. You cannot try to safeguard your son, the perpetrator who's committed this horrendous crime, and then cover up and get yourself in a problem as well, right? His brother that called it in. All these things went to mislead the police. Yeah. And when you've got a naive or a green, someone with not much experience on the ground, I would assume, they all come together in that perfect storm, it's led to this. Why on earth would they want to handcuff him behind his back?
Yeah.
I'm like, it beggars belief. In some situation.
What do you make of the comments then with reference to Nigel Farage? Do you think that they've called it correctly? Do you think Nigel is using this as some sort of political opportunity? I mean, I personally don't.
Well, I am strong belief that he is using this for political gain because it's not no anti-white campaign or anti-white racism going on with the police who's saying like, okay, we're going to turn things around. It wasn't. It was just a bad call, judgment call by that young officer, and the people who was there supporting him in that role. No one seemed to step forward to really try to look at safeguarding Henry in that regard.
But don't you think, though, that part of that is because they've been slightly brainwashed? I mean, even after Henry had been stabbed, and then they realised that he was in a predicament, they then went, after he'd passed out, apparently, when they realised it, they then went to the kitchen so they could help, this murderer choose something to eat so that he'd get into the police car with food. They didn't handcuff him even then. Why would they do that? Look, when now you've made the mistake, you've realised that you got it wrong. OK, now you spring into action, you cuff the person who has had the knife, and then you drag them into that police car. You don't say, oh, let's go to the fridge now. Are you going to be hungry? What would you like to eat? Let's have a look in the fridge. OK, there you go. Come and sit down in the police car. It's OK, everything's all right. I mean, why would they be doing that if there's no level of DEI brainwashing? This bit, I'm confused now.
Look, I can only say that as a black man, we would not have got that privilege. No. We would have been up there. I would have been handcuffed.
Well,
we would have been forced to frog march into that car. But as I said, because of who he is, the Sikh religion, and they're not known to commit such violent crime. But as it quite clearly says, you cannot judge a book by the cover. Anyone can commit crime.
Exactly.
And you had a young man calling out for help, saying he'd been stabbed, and nobody's really taking much care or showing much concern as to his plight.
Well, you see, that's the thing, though, isn't it? So the brainwashing of what a black person is like has gone the other way. I don't know whether you'd been treated like, if, just for example, you'd got yourself in a predicament, whether you'd be treated as badly anymore. I don't know. But all I do know is if you were treated as badly, somehow the Sikh person would have still been treated well, and somehow the person who I think they looked at a white guy there at that house, the brainwashing has kicked into overdrive. They're not listening. They're thinking we must be respectful of faith and this and that, and they've just gone overboard. They've just lost the plot completely.
Yeah, look, I still believe I'd be treated the same way today as I was treated 20 years ago. In fact, I had a call this morning from a concerned family who the police came at 4:30 this morning, kicked in their door and put a taser to their head, only to find it was the wrong house. They needed to go next door.
I don't want to laugh. It's not funny. God.
So I'm just saying it's terrifying for that young family that I'm now taking on that case, which is absolutely, it shows it can happen. But what we can do...
I don't think he was tasered because he was a black guy. They just got the wrong house and they got the wrong person, which is totally wrong. But they thought they got the right person and they tasered the wrong person. I'm not sure whether...
No, they didn't taser. They just pulled the taser out. They never used it.
Yeah, but they just got the wrong house. I mean, if the person in the next house had been white and that was where they're meant to be, they'd have gone there and done the same thing with the taser to the head, I don't think it would have made any difference, really. They just got the wrong address.
Yeah, but I'm just saying these things still happen. These things still happen.
No, I see they do, but I'm saying that it should be equalised across the board.
But listen, my heartfelt condolence goes out to the family, and to hear how the father talked, how balanced he was. He doesn't want things to escalate. He just wants answers, and he should get answers, and they need to do that fairly quickly. Okay. Now, as I said beforehand, the people that were on there that knew what happened should have said something. Should have said something to the police, put them right. Yeah. But they never. So they need the book of the law thrown at them in that regard.
They are complicit. They are complicit in this, the family, absolutely, and I expect to see justice.
So please, let's keep it where it is and not escalate it to where it doesn't need to go. Right. So Nigel and his comment need to be a bit more responsible in what he's saying, because things can flare up, and we're all feeling hurt.
All right, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you, Ken Hines. He's a Knife Crime campaigner. Right, joining me in London, my panel, GBNews contributor and comedian Paul Cox and journalist and commentator Jonathan Liss. Jonathan Liss, I will come to you on that. Your thoughts?
Well, obviously, it's a horrific thing that's happened. I think we can all agree on that. The police made a terrible, terrible mistake. I think that is also not a controversial view. Obviously, police have to make split-second decisions, and they often get them wrong. And I often attack the police. Clearly, there is a lot to attack in this particular case, and we know that the police officer involved has resigned as well. What happened to Henry in his last moments barely sort of merits thinking about. So my heart goes out to his family and friends, obviously. In terms of the politicisation of it, I think that we really have to listen to Henry's own father, who has said that he does not want this to become a political football. He does not want his son's death to be some kind of new wedge or front in the culture war. And I think that Nigel Farage was completely obscene in going against Henry's father's wishes in that and doing precisely what he asked him not to do. This is about...
I don't think he used the word culture war.
Well, he asked for it not to become politicised, and that's exactly what Nigel Farage did. Like, you know, you can agree with Farage or not, but I think that if you're going to sort of talk about your sympathy for this boy and then sort of just, you know, put your middle finger up at his dad, I think that...
I think that's pretty unfair.
I'm saying that people in general who are seeking to politicise this, if they are motivated by sympathy for Henry, but then they are saying to Henry's dad, I don't care what you think about this because I'm going to make it, I'm going to say what I like about your son in my own political agenda, then that to me is not showing respect for either Henry or his family. So look, we can...
So what would you explain? What would be your explanation for even after discovering that Henry had been stabbed and realising that it was clearly Vikram Digwa who had done it and perpetrated it, taking Vikram Digwa nicely to the kitchen, saying what he would like to eat, letting him choose some snacks for him to get into his car, and then no handcuffs?
No, I wasn't there, and I don't...
This is the story that we've been told. This is what we've been told by good sources, that this is how it went.
No, as with all of these situations, I am always slightly hesitant to comment about things that I have heard about second or third hand, that I don't know the precise context. Obviously, from what you're saying on the surface, it sounds bad. I'm not denying that, but there might. But again, I wasn't there. I don't know exactly what happened. I'm not a police expert. Obviously, if you're arresting someone, they do also have the right to food and drink. I'm not saying that I would agree with do everything they did or that I agree with it. But I am saying that I would need more context before just blanket condemnation of that particular thing.
Okay, well, I've given you the context. I think it's pretty.
Well, I would like to hear the defence from the police officers involved about why they did that.
I know Jonathan means well, and Ken Hines means well as well. Both have valid points and opinions I respect, but this is escalating into whataboutery almost now. Look. When Henry Novak's father did that amazing speech, incredibly emotive speech outside court after his son, murderer, had been convicted and sentenced to 21 years. Yes, he did say he'd rather this didn't become a political football. I can't remember what exactly the words were. And we can take that into account, but it doesn't stop us having the discussion. It doesn't. In order for this to be resolved, it has to become political, because no one else is going to resolve it other than through politics. So yes, we take and respect what he said, and we move forward. But also, we have to start to analyse, because this didn't happen in a vacuum. We have to understand why this happened. And right now, we're all in the heat of it. And Nigel Farage, I think, is right from his perspective to say what he said. I tell you why, not because it's encouraging violence in any way, because I don't think it was, but because Nigel Farage represents a huge constituency of people who feel very similar to what he's saying. If he didn't come out and say it, it would be remiss of him to do so. In the same way, Keir Starmer doesn't say anything because he has a huge constituency of people who believe this should be entirely ignored.
Honestly, there's a difference between talking about it, as we are, quite rightly, and seeking to make political capital out of it, which is what a lot of people are accusing Farage of doing.
Well, right.
There are
what
obviously differences.
George Floyd?
There are obviously, and by the way, when a police officer murdered Sarah Everard, Nigel Farage made a specific point of urging people not to attack men or the police, for example. So, I think that it's, these are obviously, if someone commits a crime, the person responsible for that crime is the person who's committed it. So in the same way that we wouldn't extrapolate lessons about Sikh people from this incident, the same way that we don't extrapolate lessons about Christian people when a Christian person murders someone. There are obviously, we can draw certain lessons maybe about the individuals concerned, about how the police might have done something different. What I find difficult is where we then draw broad lessons about how the police are institutionally or generally. That is not a lesson I would draw from this particular instance.
But I think we are right to question the mindset, because none of us can understand why, when somebody's told you they've been stabbed, when they're told you that they can't breathe repeatedly, why you wouldn't then really act on that and find out what's going on, why you wouldn't do that. So it is wise to understand the mentality of whether this is just an isolated incident of a police officer making a mistake, or whether there's a deeper thought process that has evolved over a period of time. That's what Nigel is saying, and I don't think that's politicising at all. That's delving deeper and finding if there's a root cause to that behaviour, and I suspect Nigel is on the right track. But still to come on The Late Show Live. Tonight, protesters and police have clashed with yards from where Henry Novak was stabbed to death. Demonstrators chanted, "Henry, Henry," as the line of riot police pelted with bricks and forced to retreat. We'll be joined by someone who was at the protest next. This is The Late Show Live. Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
To warm family brunches.
from football to tennis in the car,
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question. Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way.
You will not want to miss it, trust me. The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to The Late Show Live. I'm Nana Akweer. Now, protesters have gathered tonight in Southampton after body cam footage was released of Henry Novak's final moments. So what you could hear, the demonstrators are chanting "on your knees." Now that is a reference to the police taking the knee in the wake of the death of George Floyd. While protesters clashed with officers amid massive anger at Hampshire police handling of the case with missiles thrown at them. Protesters also gathered outside Southampton police station. They're also chanting there, "I can't breathe." That's another reference to George Floyd, whose last words were the same as Henry's, "I can't breathe." Well, in the last few moments, the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, has commented on the protests in Southampton tonight, writing on social media, "The scenes this evening in Portswood are completely unacceptable. The Novak family made a powerful call to us all yesterday to not let Henry's death be used to create further division, hatred or tension. There can be no justification for hijacking this tragedy to stir up violence and disorder. Those responsible can expect to face the full force of the law. I thank the police who have tonight shown great bravery and calm in the face of disgraceful violence directed at them." Well, we've got some new footage that has just dropped from the protest. So more footage here of riot police clashing with protesters, approaching a line of officers and those officers trying to push them back with their shields. We can now speak with Director of Destination Dover, Jack Hadfield. Jack, welcome to the programme. Now, Jack, I understand that you were at that protest. Which one were you at?
So I was at both of the protests. So the protest originally started at 6 p.m. Well, I was there at 5 p.m. outside Southampton police station, and people were already there, but the main protest was there then at 6, and I would say at least a few thousand people turned up. After there were speeches from a number of people, including Tommy Robinson, Nick Tanconi from UKIP, Kelly J. Keane of Let Women Speak. After those speeches then, Tommy then left, and the crowd was then led down towards Portswood Police Station and Belmont Road, where, of course, Henry actually died. So those clashes with the police took place after around a 2-mile walk from the police station, in which a good chunk of the protesters who were there at the first one originally were then transferred to the second. But obviously, throughout the evening, more and more people dispersed. So by the time I left around 9 p.m., I would say there were only a few hundred people still there out of the original few thousand. So again, Shabana Mahmood is portraying this entire thing as being just violence, disorder, but the violence and disorder only happened near to the end of the evening, when only a small fraction of those protesters were still left, and then it was only a small fraction of those who were actually throwing bottles, bins, fencing at the officers, etc.
Do you accept the criticism from some political leaders that this has been used as a political football?
Well, I think this is just a way of trying to deny the problems that we've seen arise from this case. I don't think any of the people who are saying this is a political football would have been saying the same thing about George Floyd. They would have said, this death shows the issues with the American police system, ergo it needs reforms, etc. That's all that people on the other side are saying here. They're saying that the police are institutionally anti-white, post the McPherson report. If you look at Hampshire Police themselves, for example, on their own anti-racism training section on their website, there is literally reference to George Floyd, which is a death that, of course, happened in a country that is not here under a police force that is not ours. So I think there's a difference in using Henry's name in vain to push your own political agenda. But certainly, if you're saying he died because of these reasons, it is very important to say that this wouldn't have happened if these reasons had not been in there in the first place. And so, I think a lot of the people, well, obviously, I think more on the left on this, are therefore dismissing that with the political football angle.
It does seem odd that the behaviour of those officers, I'm trying to work out why you would cuff somebody who's clearly on the floor, why you drag them by their leg, why, when they tell you they can't breathe, you'd ignore it and say, I don't think so, mate. When they tell you they've been stabbed, repeatedly telling you that. And it's only when they eventually pass out that you start to think, oh, maybe we should have a look at this. And then once you've worked out that there is a serious issue, you then take the person who's clearly the perpetrator to the kitchen to help them choose what they're going to eat. So when they get into the police car, by the sounds of it, it doesn't appear that he was handcuffed at any point.
Yes, no, exactly. I think it does show that the police, obviously, with the 999 call, there's obviously GB News released yesterday, which had the brother of Henry's killer say that this was a racial assault by a white man. I do think that this would have certainly prepped the police to have this, if this is what they're aware of when they're on the scene there. I think, it is very true that the police now, in dealing with supposedly racial crimes, will have the white person framed as the aggressor and the ethnic minority framed as the victim. And certainly if they're going into that, certainly we're trained with this. They are trained in anti-racism things all the time. You can see what the police are made to do, and it comes from the top down. They are going to have that mentality stuck in their mind when dealing with this, even when, obviously, as we've seen, Henry's hands were so white when he was being arrested that it was obvious that so much blood had come out of him. And I think the police do need a reckoning. They need complete reform, if not complete removal and replacement with an entirely new police force if it is that far gone.
Yeah, because we can't be doing that. The DEI has to go. It's got to go. There's no place for racial inequalities in criminal justice. Everyone must be colourblind under the eyes of the law, and the law should make no preferences for anyone for any special characteristic whatsoever. I find it completely shocking. Jack, thank you very much for your thoughts. That's Jack Hadfield. He's the director of Destination Dover. Right, will stay with me. Still to come on The Late Show Live.
We need a change in culture. Enough of anti-white prejudice.
Race quotes have been slammed in the wake of Henry's death. We'll cross to America, where it's even worse there. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter? So that's a very live question. Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you. Bulletins on GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, this Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. I'm Nana Acquair. Now, current and former police officers have described what they call a growing cult of diversity, equity and inclusion within Hampshire Constabulary and other forces, claiming that officers now fear career-ending allegations of racism, even when those allegations are ultimately found to be unfounded. And that is according to the Daily Telegraph. The newspaper says that many trace the shift back to the murder of George Floyd in the United States in 2020, a moment widely seen as a turning point for policing across the UK. In Hampshire, then Chief Constable Olivia Pinkney reportedly made diversity and inclusion a central priority for the force. And this is what Nigel Farage had to say on the matter earlier.
We had an email come through this morning from a senior Hampshire police officer who said, "We are told to police incidents differently according to the ethnicity of those involved." They are the instructions given to police, and those police in Southampton would have been working to those rules. This is two-tier Britain, and I'm totally opposed to it. I'm opposed to DEI, I'm opposed to positive discrimination. I believe if we're going to live in a free and fair country, everybody must be judged equally on their merits.
Yeah. Well, Reform UK MP for Newark, Robert Jenrick, says that the police handling of Henry Novak is the result of decades of anti-racism training and DEI nonsense, concluding that Henry was treated differently because he was white. Well, let's cross to America, where I'm joined by Manhattan Institute fellow and attorney and member of the Council on Criminal Justice, Rafael Mangual. Rafael, thank you very much for joining us. How bad is it in the United States? Has it slightly swung the other way, or is it still that people of colour are treated really badly by the police?
Oh, I think the claims of mistreatment on the basis of color have long been over-exaggerated here in the United States, and I suspect that that's also the case abroad. What you don't see here in the United States is the police community writ large sort of buying into this idea. There's some tension, between the sort of rank and file officers here and, perhaps some of the executives in certain parts of the country. But by and large, policing as an institution is constituted by people who understand that these claims are over-exaggerated and do their best to do the job that they get paid to do, which is to investigate crimes that are brought to their attention or that they observe. Now, what's interesting about the UK example is that in the UK, police, including the rank and file, seem to have bought into this in a way that just you don't see here in the United States. And it's almost as if, claims of racism or claims of offense have taken on this kind of talismanic value that sort of shields one from even the slightest bit of routine scrutiny that a police officer should have as sort of second nature. And I fear that what's happening in your country is that institutions have become so consumed with the idea of political correctness that it's actually become a matter of life and death.
Do you think? Yeah, because some people are denying it. Some people are saying that Nigel Farage is politicising the whole thing, and really what we should be doing is focusing on, and I agree we should focus on knife crime and also the perpetrator of the attack rather than looking at the police force. But the reason why we're doing that is to question why on earth anyone with the same mind would behave the way the officers behaved.
I think that's exactly right. I think anyone who watches that body cam footage, and I have watched hours and hours, thousands of hours of body cam footage as someone who covers these issues here in the United States, I think is appalled by so much. It's not just the fact that we watched another human being slowly fade away into death. It's the fact that there was just clear indifference on the part of the responding officers, and not just indifference, but gullibility, it seems. Yeah. I mean, here they are confronted with two competing claims. You have people saying that they've been assaulted, and then you have someone else on the floor in a state of essential incapacitation saying that he's been stabbed, that he can't breathe, he's got a mouthful of blood. At some points, he can be heard almost gurgling, and yet they place him under arrest without even doing the slightest bit of investigation to see which side of this story is the truth. They don't interview any witnesses. They immediately say you are under arrest for the charge of assault and start reading him his rights, despite the fact that this boy, this 18-year-old, is literally struggling for his last breaths.
I know. It just doesn't, you know, every time you think about it, it just makes me feel utterly sick. I feel so sorry for that poor young lad. I mean, his last moments being told, read his rights. And even after they then realised that he was obviously in a pretty bad way, they then apparently, somebody called for an ambulance, I presume, but then they went into the kitchen to help the knife-wielding murderer to choose what he would eat in the police car. And by all accounts, they didn't even cuff him.
That's exactly right. I mean, it really is disturbing on absolutely every level. I mean, you have to really ask these questions. Why didn't the officers start questioning the people who were holding down a man that had clearly been incapacitated physically? Why assume that this is the individual lying in this situation? I mean, you know, people might say, well, yeah, you know, subjects will often lie and say they can't breathe when they really can. Well, okay, but people also lie to police routinely about having been assaulted when they, in fact, are the aggressors in a situation. And so there's really nothing that they were presented with other than the racial dynamics that sort of justifies the differential treatment there.
Yeah, and there lies the point. It was all about race. And anyone who tries to deny that aspect, because that's why the police were called, apparently, is missing the point. Thank you very much, Rafael Manguel. He's a member of the Council in Criminal Justice. All right, well, let's go to my panel in Washington, D.C. Former Obama policy advisor Laurie Watkins and Republican strategist Matthew Hurt. Laurie Watkins, watching that, what do you take from all of that?
Greetings to your viewers. Nana, thank you for having me on the program tonight. It was heartbreaking to hear the account of what happened to that young man, that this incident started by somebody calling, the police responded, and it just sounds like error after error after error happened by the hands of the police. That's who, as an outsider, someone here in the United States, if I just heard this for the first time today, and read about it for the first time today, that's where I put all of the blame, yes, on the person who did the stabbing, but the police responded. Look at what has happened, because now you have second and third order of effects that are not just this young man's life that has been lost. Now you're taking away from his legacy and what he left behind, and the focus is on this other guy who actually is the criminal. And there's division that's happening within your country, within the community, within businesses, within young people, within neighborhoods. It's absolutely horrible, and I've seen it happen here time and time again in the United States, so I am very sympathetic to what you all are going through, and I'm so sorry.
Matthew Hurt, a lot of this talk about DEI, which was put in there with all good intentions, but has somehow brainwashed people into using common sense.
Well, Nana, one of the benefits in the wake of George Floyd in the United States was the widespread adoption and use of body cam footage. And what it revealed to viewers, as was just expressed by your guest from the Manhattan Institute, is that many of those videos, in fact, reveal that justifiable use of force is engaged in many instances. What we've seen now, and what seems to have taken place in this instance, is an additional layer of concern in Great Britain, where not only do you have DEI policies used by law enforcement and others, but also free speech, the lack of free speech, or the chilling of what could be determined as hateful speech. We don't have those layers of speech codes in the United States. And so now what we see in the execution of law enforcement in Great Britain are the policies that have now been chilled, or at least augmented in this very serious instance, augmented to overcorrect for quote unquote hate speech. It's absolutely terrifying. And to the point that was made earlier in the segment about politicizing this issue, policies are in fact political, and it is policies like DEI and others that have to be adjudicated in the House of Commons and in city councils and in the legislature here in the United States. So there's no way to not politicize this, because these are in fact policies that come from politics.
Yeah, I do find it a bit hypocritical of politicians complaining that it's being politicised whilst talking about it, because obviously, as you say, these are policies created by politicians and it's all about politics. Thank you very much, Matthew and Laurie. Really good to speak to you both. Right, still ahead on The Late Show Live, we'll be looking at tomorrow's front pages. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car,
In the kitchen.
GB News breakfast is there.
With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. I'm Nana Akweer. Let's have a look at some of the newspapers that have covered Henry Novak's death. Right, on the front cover of The Guardian, appeals for calm as murder case prompts fears of racial tension. The Metro, a dereliction of duty over Henry killing. The Sun, never again, dying Henry cuffed as killer lies. He's a racist. And Daily Mail, Kemi, this needs to be a Stephen Lawrence moment. The Mirror, why didn't they listen? The victim told police that he'd been knifed, but they handcuffed him as he lay dying. Well, Paul Cox, I mean, it's quite damning. And Kemi, the bit with Kemi says this needs to be a Stephen Lawrence moment. She was saying that it's been politicised by Nigel Farage, but it's all politics. I mean, they're all doing it.
Every aspect of this is politics, Nana, you're absolutely right. Everything from Mahmood to Starmer to Kemi to Farage. I mean, I've not seen what Zach Polanski said and I've not seen what Rupert Lower said, but I'm sure they are politicising it in their own right. Of course they are. That's what they're paid to do, and they represent thousands of people who who they talk on behalf of. If they get it wrong, they lose those people and they go somewhere else. So they're all trying to make a judgment here of what is the right thing to do. Every single one of us believes that this is an absolutely tragic loss of life. And we're arguing here, or debating, should I say, about how it may have been prevented and what led to it, because this didn't happen in a vacuum. I keep saying that. It happened over a long period of time. And seeing the way the police reacted in that body cam footage yesterday is incredibly revealing. All you've got to do is keep watching that. If you don't, there is no debate. The police at that moment got it completely wrong. Why did they get it wrong? Why did they treat one person differently to another? Well, we've learned over the last 5, 10, 20 years that because of DEI and because of anti-racism, it's completely gone the other way.
Jonathan Liss.
Well, I just don't accept that point of view, Paul. I think that when you look at, I think there was another review into police racism, and I think that it found that the police were still institutionally racist almost 30 years after the McPherson report.
Who were they racist against?
Against black people. I think there was a report that was...
But black people weren't involved in this crime.
No, I know that, but the idea that somehow after the McPherson report in 1998, the police suddenly became black people were no longer, or non-white people were no longer the victims of racism, and the white people became...
DEI has come in since those things. So since the...
We've always had diversity policies.
No, but DEI really went into overdrive, in particular after the Black Lives Matter moment, the movement in 2020. Right. So let's be honest, there has been a weird shift. Even me, as a person of colour, have noticed this odd shift in mindset where, I'm being completely told constantly that I'm a victim and the critical race theory and all these things that I object to being told.
I think that when you look at arrest statistics, when you look at the experience of many non-white people in London and elsewhere, they will still report anecdotally and statistically that non-white people have a different experience of policing in this country, and often they feel victimised. I'm not saying that all of those anecdotes are correct. I'm saying that the idea that we now have some black and Asian people that are treated exceptionally well by the police, and white people are getting the kind of treatment that black people had 30 years ago, is just not borne out by the facts or by people's experience.
I don't think that's what we're saying. I'm saying that there is a sort of development that is evolving, a thought process that is evolving, that is telling these people how to treat people of colour, how to treat somebody with a religious belief, instead of just saying treat everybody the same. So I'm saying don't treat black people badly, don't treat white people better, treat everyone the same.
Of course, everyone needs to be treated the same. What you have in conversations about this kind of thing is that, as the Supreme Court judgment in the United States said many years ago, in order to combat racism, you need to take account of race. And when you have a history of racism, obviously you need to take account of that in order to defeat it.
All right, well, listen, stay with us. We've got loads more still to come here. Obviously, my panel here in the UK and all of that, but more coming up in the next hour, including this.
I went through the same process as everybody else, and many people, not just in politics, use disappearing messages.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, this is your GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. There's a big band of rain making its way across the country at the moment, but even away from that, there will be some pretty hefty showers and some strong gusty winds. Showers already across parts of Scotland and northeast England, but then this spell of persistent rain sweeps up from the southwest. Some relatively high rainfall totals with this, but then it's the showers following in behind across parts of Northern Ireland, much of England and Wales, and later into southern parts of Scotland, which could really pack a punch. Temperature-wise, well, they're near normal for the time of year, but watch out for some strong gusty winds with those showers. They will make it feel a little bit fresher, and definitely so much fresher than it was this time last week. Into this evening, and we still have some of that persistent rain across parts Parts of Scotland, northern areas a bit more showery, but across central areas it is going to be pretty wet here. And then looking further south, it's these intense thunderstorms that we need to watch out for. They're going to be pretty widespread. They're going to bring frequent lightning, often going to be thundery, and there'll be some large hail mixed in, especially across parts of northern England. Further south, even here the showers could be heavy and thundery at times, but there'll be slightly fewer of them, with some drier, brighter, clearer breaks in between. Overnight, the showers continue. The heaviest ones will largely ease, but there will still be plenty of showers and still some strong, blustery, gusty winds, especially for the time of year. All that does mean temperatures won't drop a huge amount, so most places, particularly the towns and cities, holding up in double digits. But then Thursday's going to be another showery day. Perhaps the showers not quite as intense as some of the ones that we're likely to see through today, but nonetheless, there could still be some rumbles of thunder and some heavy ones mixed in. Any sunny spells will be pretty limited for most, perhaps some towards the south and southeast, but even here, showers will be pushing through and there will still be some strong gusty winds with temperatures, well, looking similar to today. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, we are live from London. This is GB News with the stories shaping Britain and America. Tonight,
I went through the same process as everybody else, and many people, not just in politics, use disappearing messages.
Sir Keir Starmer is facing fresh questions after only a measly 9 iMessages between himself and Lord Mandelson appeared in more than 1,000 pages of released documents. Plus,
because he's not an adult female, is he?
Well, I believe that trans women are women. And
do?
they are included, yes.
Trans women, really? Yes, that's what the Health Secretary said back in 2022. But Mr Murray now says that he recognises that sex and gender are different things. Oh, that's reassuring, isn't it? Plus,
I put in place the toughest checks we've ever had in the prison system.
how can we keep track of our prisoners? The government's latest discussions involve venturing into the realm of science fiction and placing microchips under people's skin. And remember that huge row over what we should put on our banknotes? Well, the Bank of England are going to reveal which animals could be taking the place of our historical features on a brand new series of banknotes. Does anyone still use cash? I'm Nana Aquir, and this is The Late Show Live. So welcome to The Late Show Live. Joining me this evening in London, my panel of GB News contributor and comedian Paul Cox, journalist and commentator Jonathan Liz. And in Washington, D.C., we'll be talking to Obama policy advisor Laurie Watkins and Republican strategist Matthew Hurt. Thank you all for joining me this evening. So Keir Starmer has defended his disappearing WhatsApp messages after questions over why very little of his correspondence with Lord Mandelson was published in the recent files relating to his appointment as US ambassador. More than 1,000 pages of documents were released yesterday, including exchanges between Peter Mandelson and senior ministers. However, the release included only one page of correspondence between the Prime Minister and the disgraced peer, made up of 9 iMessages.
Well, let me assure you, I've complied with the humble address. All the messages I hold have been passed over. I went through the same process as everybody else, and many people, not just in politics, use disappearing messages.
So with me now is American political consultant Liz Mair, who worked on the campaign for Rishi Sunak to become Prime Minister in 2022. Thank you very much for joining me, Liz. Is this standard practice? Because I thought that politicians, in particular the Prime Minister, must almost show a trail of his workings, as it were.
That's definitely best practice. Whether that complies with the letter of the law, I'm not entirely sure. I'm sure we're going to find out more about this. I will say the thing that I think is most ironic is having come up in British politics and having worked at a time when the Conservative Party was in the minority, specifically because of the sleaze issue that arose in the final sort of major years. I think it's funny that what's at issue here is a bunch of text messages where Peter Mandelson is urging Starmer to talk to Major. I'm guessing he didn't follow through on that advice, because if he had, he would have known that this is exactly the kind of thing that can ultimately end up crushing a majority. Voters will vote for many things that they disagree with philosophically. What they will not vote for in general is sleaze, bad ethics, these sorts of problems. And the Labour government seems to be racking them up.
Yeah, I mean, they seem to be the worst at it so far that I've ever seen, if I'm totally honest. And as for disappearing messages, it's quite a new thing. I don't have disappearing messages. I'm quite open and upfront. But there's only really one reason why people kind of have them, is so that nobody can reuse anything that they've messaged.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I keep them, and where I keep them is specifically usually when I'm corresponding with investigative reporters, specifically including at major British publications, and they're working on very difficult stories where I may be able to provide some sort of insight, but I really don't want that kind of a paper trail. But you know what? I'm not the Prime Minister. I'm not in elected office. I'm not subject to any sort of legal requirements, and frankly, the ethics surrounding the role of a political consultant who works on Conservative Party leadership campaigns or Republican political campaigns, it is entirely different to the position that Keir Starmer occupies.
Could it be possible that there were only a few bits of correspondence? Because there are people who are very close to Prime Ministers, and you would think that they talk to them all the time, but then when you interview them, they go, oh, no, I don't really talk to the Prime Minister. I very rarely speak to him. I've spoken to him once or twice.
Yeah, no, I think that that's entirely possible. However, we do know that when you're looking at the British political system, definitely WhatsApp is something that is relied upon quite a bit. We've also found out in the course of the second Trump presidency that not so much WhatsApp, but Signal is something that has been relied on quite a bit too. So I think it really does defy credibility and does defy belief that he hasn't been using this more frequently. And I think particularly when you consider the context in which Mandelson was appointed, he was generally viewed as the only person, regardless of all of the ethical problems that might exist surrounding him, he was viewed as the only person who could probably keep Donald Trump on side and keep him from hammering the UK with voluminous tariffs that would really crater the economy. And I just think it's very hard to believe in that type of situation that the Prime Minister wouldn't have been routinely messaging with him.
It does seem a little bit odd and smacks of some sort of cover-up, and that's not a good look. But given that the technology is available, what should politicians be doing then? Because I guess if you can use disappearing messages, you're making sensitive communications, you have a WhatsApp group. Many people have been caught out by WhatsApp. It almost would seem wise to make those messages disappear.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the impulse, but I also think when you're looking at appropriate information preservation and record-keeping laws, it is actually generally better to actually have that trail on email, and preferably email that is housed on an extremely secure, cybersecurity reinforced government server, right? That's the way that you're supposed to do it. Now, God knows that numerous U.S. politicians have gotten in trouble because they have not been doing that. But I really don't think that that means that that's the standard that ought to be set. At the end of the day, if you are subject to official record-keeping laws, whatever country you're in, you should be communicating in a way that facilitates your compliance with those laws. And the more that you do that, obviously, the fewer questions arise about what you might have been doing where we're never going to have a paper trail and it's going to be completely unclear. And I would also just add with that, certain people who have worked for the Prime Minister just magically having had their cell phones stolen. We recognize there are problems with phone theft in Mayfair. However, this all just looks a little bit too convenient, and I don't think that the average voter is going to buy it.
No, I don't think they are buying it at all. Liz Mayer, thank you very much. He worked on the campaign trail with Rishi Sunak in 2022. Thank you so much. All right, well, let's go to my panel in London. GB News contributor and comedian Paul Cox and journalist and commentator Jonathan Liss. Jonathan, do you think it's ethical that they should be able to communicate politically sensitive information on platforms where the messages disappear, or do you think there should be some of the standard platform that they must use so that we can trail their conversations when it comes to anything political?
I think that obviously matters of national security should not be discussed on WhatsApp in general, and that the government does have secure platforms to conduct that information. That's as it should be. There are going to be some instances where decisions will be made or discussed over WhatsApp, and the Cabinet Office guidance seems to be that that should be recorded in the normal way. So it's possible to record information while still having a delete function or disappear function on WhatsApp.
Well, it's not recording. I don't see how.
Well, you can screenshot things, you can record it elsewhere.
But you can't get a trail of the.
In general, I think that there should be. In general, I think that there should be transparency, and that obviously people should be aware when they are WhatsApping or emailing that might one day be on the front page of a newspaper. And I think also the fact that may be a factor of people's thinking could inhibit people from saying what they actually mean, and that might not always lead to good policy making. I think that politicians and officials need to be free to actually say things that might not necessarily look great if it was in the public domain, because decisions need to be made and you have to get through bad things to get to good things sometimes. So, I'm not sure, you can have transparency is a good thing, but not every single, if we went through our own phones and all of our own messages to our friends are leaked to the media, we wouldn't be happy about that, because obviously we say things that we wouldn't necessarily like people to read. No, we're not the Prime Minister. I think there has to be, that's what I'm saying, there has to be a distinction between the conversations that the Prime Minister will have as a human being, but also as, as a head of a senior organisation, and also key government decisions, which obviously should be a matter of public record and need to be recorded in the appropriate way.
OK. Paul Cox.
Look, I've shared some very kind messages with Jonathan that I would want nobody to see. if the friendliness of that relationship was ever revealed, then this would not look quite the same way. But look, Oh, no, body language expert, but if we're not going to be able to play it back because, you know, the Gallagher are going to be out quickly, but Keir Starmer, the way he reacted to that question tells you straight away he felt incredibly awkward, and I doubt even whether he had disappearing messages on. I think there's a lot more dark arts going on here. I think they definitely don't want for anybody to know about those conversations. But the reason I say that is because from the conversations we have seen that include Peter Mandelson, we know that he's a very self-centred, slightly dodgy guy that has spent his whole career working in the background. No one lobbies quite like him. The one thing I would like to say about Keir Starmer, though, the reason he's judged the way he is because he has spent his whole life and his whole career judging others. Yeah. Judging others all the time, whether it's in politics, whether it's in his job, previously as a barrister, he's always judging others. The man of the rules, the man of the process. As soon as he comes under scrutiny, all of a sudden it doesn't apply to him.
But you could argue that that background of his, knowing the very litigious background that he comes from, he would absolutely be making sure his messages disappear because he knows that they can come back on him.
Yeah, I think the truth of the matter is he wants those messages to disappear for everything that Jonathan said, because he wants to have transparent conversations with people like Peter Mandelson. All we're saying as people who don't vote for Labour is why not show them? We were constantly told this is the party of adults. This is, all of a sudden, it's going to bring stability to the country. We just got sleaze times 10. It hasn't. It's no different. In fact, it's a lot worse. The country has taken a massive nosedive under Starmer.
I don't think it's true that sleaze is worse than it has been in the past. No, I don't. I really don't. If you look at the scandals,
look at the U-turns.
The quote-unquote, that's different. That's not sleaze. That's political. No, it's sleaze, man. It's political incompetence.
It's part of it. That's employing people that you then have to revolve out of the door.
Sleaze is corruption, it's bribery, it's kind of stuff that we saw in the 90s. Tulip Sadiq has not been accused of any crime in this country. She's the victim. No, she's the victim of a highly politicised process in Bangladesh. No, it's being trashed by her aunt's political... No, she's been accused of something. That doesn't mean she's guilty of it. And she hasn't been accused of anything in this country.
Why is she connected to
someone? What a ridiculous thing to say. Someone being accused of something doesn't mean you're guilty of it, Nana.
What, the flat in London that she knew nothing about, apparently?
Tulip has given plenty of accounts of all of that. No, I'm sorry, you can't just have guilt by association. That's not how guilt works in this country. She has not been accused of any crime. She has not been questioned of any crime in this country. She is completely innocent in the eyes of the law. She's the victim of... And legal experts have said repeatedly that the Bangladeshi process is biased.
It doesn't work like that. You talk, I listen, I talk, and you also listen. But look, she's connected to something that is pretty sleazy, right? And it doesn't look good, right? Now, I've not said that she's broken the law in any way, shape or form, but you've got to be careful if you're in this kind of political space, especially if you're the anti-corruption minister. You can't be connected to people who are corrupt.
Well, she can't help who her aunt is.
I haven't finished. I haven't finished. Rashanara Ali, a landlord who then sort of tried to get rid of her own tenants to charge more money because that's when
that was wrong.
She's meant to be looking after housing.
Sleaze. It's not corruption.
Let me finish. I'm talking about sleaze. Angela Rayner, the whole stamp duty thing that she mispaid or didn't pay or still but she's still owes
Nigel
it.
Farage.
She's the housing minister.
£5 million gift that was first of all for his security and then magically became a reward for campaigning for Brexit. Can't we both mysteriously not declared and all kinds of questions about how he was able to afford his own properties were the same problem of Angela Rayner. Well, did he pay the appropriate level of tax, which is now being investigated by the Parliamentary Standards Commissioner? So if you think that sleaze is not a one-party issue...
Nobody said that. I didn't say that.
OK, fine. Well, you're talking about Labour. That's the context of the conversation.
I'm just telling you that there's sleaze all over the Labour Party.
People are people.
Let me finish. And I've got literally listed 3 people who are already embroiled in sleaze.
None of those things are sleazy. None of those things are sleazy. No. None of those things are... Angela Rayner, that's not sleaze. That's not sleazy at all. It was people taking gifts. None of those things were sleazy in the slightest. None of those things was about corruption. None of those people have been found guilty or have been accused of corruption. Rashanara Ali was guilty of misjudgment. Tulip has been found associated with something in Bangladesh.
So I posed the question, really, and the point that it has got demonstrably worse since the Tory party, which none of us supported by the end. None of us supported. So what we saw with the Tory party, what happened there, and the endless prime ministers and the sleaze and the corruption has got demonstrably worse. We find I mean, I don't talk about politics of vibes, but that is the vogue at the moment, the politics of vibes. The vibes of this country right now are terrible. Yep. There isn't anybody on any side. Everybody used to support Labour and Keir Starmer has run off to the Greens. Nobody supports them anymore. Nobody supports Tories anymore. And they've gone out to the extremes because popular politics is winning, because they're fed up of the sleaze and being lied to. There's quite obviously been a lot of sleaze.
Yeah. No, it's not. But that's we're talking about corruption. I don't think there's a vibe of corruption.
I'm going to bring in the Washington panel and get what they think. Former Foreign Policy Advisor Laurie Watkins and Republican strategist Matthew Hurt. All right, I'm going to start with you, Matthew Hurt. We've been talking about politics and sleaze. Keir Starmer with his disappearing messages. A lot of people would see that as you're trying to hide something.
Well, Nana, Laurie and I are vibing over here, but there's an expectation in the United States in particular that communications by government officials will be accessible under what we call the Freedom of Information Act request. That's what we have in the United States, where if you have two elected officials or government bureaucrats or some combination of those, that a citizen, an average citizen, could request those documents. And what Sir Keir Starmer has done is made it impossible to request those documents. And one of the points that was made a moment ago is that he, as a barrister, as an attorney, as what we'd say in the U.S., is constantly judging others. This is a man who knew exactly what was discoverable in a court of law. And if messages disappear, those messages are no longer discoverable. And so that means they are behind the shade and unable to be scrutinized by the press or by the people.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Laurie?
Does everyone remember Barack Obama a long time ago when he wanted to use his cell phone? He was like the first American president, or the first, I'll just go so far as to say, elected official, after we all started carrying around these little things, right, that he wanted to keep his own personal cell phone. And not only did the American public, oh my goodness gracious, but Secret Service and these intergovernmental agencies were like, no, sir, you cannot have that. It's an absolute national security threat and risk. And we cannot have you using something like this. It has to be on a secured line. Long story short, we all know what happened. He was able to use that. It was a BlackBerry at the time. In fact, that's how long ago it was. Now, here in the United States, unfortunately, I will say what's happened recently with this administration, because that's what we're living under. You've seen things like Signal Gate. You all remember that, right? With Pete Hegseth and members of the national security apparatus that were sharing messages and making war plans, and they inadvertently added a journalist. It was absolutely atrocious. I say that because these are not secure devices. When you are using non-government secured applications like Signal or WhatsApp that are not through DoD or any other agency that has been formatted and retrofitted, and that is consolidating and capturing all of that data, and also deterring any kinds of threats. That's not what these systems are designed to do at that level. And we also, you saw, because I was on a show a couple weeks ago, we were talking about Kash Patel, the director of the FBI, and that the Iranians had hacked into his cell phone. So this is possible. It's more than possible. And so I just repeatedly see elected official or public person after person to try to obfuscate, right, and delete these messages or put them in dark mode. Or most people are smart enough that they talk on the phone. But even those communications can sometimes be copied or be recorded at some point, legally and illegally. So look, we have a lot of instances here in the United States. I'd say you guys are probably a bit far behind some of the brazenness and things that are happening here, but I think you guys will get to the bottom of it eventually, and I think that the British people are no fools. They know what's happening, they know what's going on, and they have the power of the vote, like we do here in the United States of America. And if you don't like what's going on and you don't respect and believe that these people hold the values that you hold and they're doing right by you all and making decisions that actually make your life better, get them the hell out of there. But when it comes to criminal activity, these people need to be held responsible. So if there's consequences that need to come in those regards, then go for it.
Yeah, but it's difficult though when they have able to use things like disappearing messages. Matthew, given what Laurie's just said, do you think that politicians should actually be forced to only communicate via these sort of secure devices? Because actually, going through things like WhatsApp, this could pose a national security threat.
Well, it's an excellent question, Nana, and I think that when doing official business, for instance, Sir Keir Starmer and Peter Mandelson, there is no question that they know each other socially and outside of, quote-unquote, the workplace. But when engaging in official business, elected officials, bureaucrats, other individuals, appointees should engage only on the channels that are both vetted by the government of the host country, but also that are then available for review through whatever Freedom of Information Act or likewise similar activity, similar law that exists in the country in question. And so, yes, it must be on secure channels provided by the government that are then reviewable by the press and the people.
Can I just say one more thing, Nana? As a former government official and employee, I've worked in Congress and also at the Pentagon. I can tell you that I had a separate device entirely. I had a government-issued device that was given to me, that those applications were how I communicated through those channels, right? I feel like those, that I didn't go outside and use a personal cell phone, even if it was a BlackBerry, because this was long ago, or an Apple phone. It didn't matter. We had separate devices. So around here in Washington, you see people with two phones in their hands everywhere. One is for official business and official communications that could easily, like my colleague was saying, that could easily be FOA requested, Freedom of Information Act, that if something were to come to light, you shouldn't have any problem with it being printed on the front page of the New York Times, because you should be doing what you were supposed to be doing as a government employee and upheld by the laws and policies and rules that you've been hired under. And that includes, I will go so far, as the Hatch Act. The Hatch Act here in the United States basically is a policy that prevents any elected official, specifically and another layer is added to political appointees by the president who are not able to engage in political activity because they are government employees. That also, having these commingled or not having separate devices, you get into that as well, Nana, because there are political and campaign issues that could be happening where people are working on that separately. So have a separate device. It should never be mixed with your personal and your official business should never be on the same device, ever.
Paul Cox, do you think that's a good idea?
Yes, I mean, I think what's happened is we've become more and more used to carrying these devices. I used to have a real job back in the day, and I would have two phones, one for business and one for personal, and never the twain did meet because of all the reasons we discussed. I think we've just become more and more relaxed about it. The fact that our government is running itself on WhatsApp, which is essentially a social media app, to me is already
Twitter,
slightly
can I just
ridiculous.
add, or Truth Social or Twitter.
Yeah, well, exactly. Exactly, Laurie. And I think that perhaps there needs to be a little bit of restraint reintroduced into the way that we do things. Look, we all know that it's very easy, particularly for me, to criticise Keir Starmer and say he should do things differently here. If that had been my team, I'd be glad that they didn't do things differently, because there are certain things you don't want to share. The way you make it simpler is to say you simply can't communicate using social media. You have to use text message on a government supplied phone, and we can scrutinise that if we need to for the security of the country, above all else.
And then at any point as well, if we feel that you've broken the rules, we can check your personal phone as well.
Yeah.
But
And one more thing is that this protects you. This protects the government employee. This protects the integrity of the office. This protects the government itself and the country. When you should want that. In my opinion, if you are doing the right thing and you are a good, upstanding person who brings stuff into the sunshine and not into the darkness, and you are doing right by your constituents, then you should have no problem with any of this.
Yeah, well, that's what they kind of say to you. You will take your details and you'll do a digital ID card. If you've done nothing wrong, facial recognition cameras, then, hey, it's all fine. Yeah, well, I agree with you. I think they should have a government device supplied by the government, and if they're going to do whatever things they want to do, and then they can do that on there, no disappearing messages. Thank you very much, panel. Brilliant. All right, well, still to come in The Late Show Live.
I put in place the toughest checks we've ever had in the prison system.
So how can we keep track of our prisoners? The government's latest discussions involve venturing into the realm of science fiction and placing microchips under people's skin. But first, a new pill could spell a cure for cancer. We'll find out how life-changing it could be with an oncologist next. First, your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, this is your GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. There's a big band of rain making its way across the country at the moment, but even away from that, there will be some pretty hefty showers and some strong gusty winds. Showers already across parts of Scotland and northeast England, but then this spell of persistent rain sweeps up from the southwest. Some relatively high rainfall totals with this, but then it's the showers following in behind across parts of Northern Ireland, much of England and Wales, and later into southern parts of Scotland, which could really pack a punch. Temperature-wise, well, they're near normal for the time of year, but watch out for some strong gusty winds with those showers. They will make it feel a little bit fresher, and definitely so much fresher than it was this time last week. Into this evening, and we still have some of that persistent rain across parts of Scotland. Northern areas a bit more showery, but across central areas it is going to be pretty wet here. And then looking further south, it's these intense thunderstorms that we need to watch out for. They're going to be pretty widespread. They're going to bring frequent lightning, often going to be thundery, and there'll be some large hail mixed in, especially across parts of northern England. Further south, even here the showers could be heavy and thundery at times, but there'll be slightly fewer of them with some drier, brighter, clearer breaks in between. Overnight, the showers continue. The heaviest ones will largely ease, but there will still be plenty of showers and still some strong, blustery, gusty winds, especially for the time of year. All that does mean temperatures won't drop a huge amount, so most places, particularly the towns and cities, holding up in double digits. But then Thursday's going to be another showery day. Perhaps the showers not quite as intense as some of the ones that we're likely to see through today, but nonetheless, there could still be some rumbles of thunder and some heavy ones mixed in. Any sunny spells will be pretty limited for most, perhaps some towards the south and southeast, but even here, showers will be pushing through and there will still be some strong gusty winds with temperatures, well, looking similar to today. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good evening, welcome back to The Late Show Live. I'm Nana Acquare. Now, we might be one step closer to winning the fight against cancer, as a new type of pill has doubled the survival time for patients with an advanced and aggressive form of pancreatic cancer. Now, the drug has been prescribed as a game changer, managing the disease that is literally has the highest mortality rate of all major cancers. It helps to prevent the spread of cancer by locking on to and shutting off the muted KRAS, so the crash gene, which is in more than 90% of pancreatic tumours and spurs the growth of cancer. Well, joining me now, gastrointestinal medical oncology at Hackensack Meridian John Thurer Cancer Centre, Tracy Proverbs Singh. None of that was easy, Tracy. There was a lot of... Wow. Did I do okay, Tracy? Okay.
You did a fantastic job.
Thank you, Tracy. Okay, so talk to me about this, because some people might think, oh, it doubles the time of your survival rate. They did a test, didn't they, with chemotherapy and this pill, and found that those who took the pill kind of doubled the time that they stayed alive after the diagnosis.
Yeah, so it was the ASCO 2026 conference released the phase 3 clinical trial that compared in the second line setting, so patients who had metastatic pancreatic cancer and who had already failed one line of chemotherapy, they received the traditional chemotherapy that we would normally do, standard of care, versus those that were randomized to receive the pill daraxonrasib. And so, you know, what it showed is a doubling of survival. We know that patients with chemotherapy alone in the second line setting have an overall survival median probably around 6 to 7 months, and that was met. It was about 6.6, and patients on the daraxonrasib lived about 13.2 months with receiving the pill. It's a very exciting breakthrough. I know it only sounds like 6 months, but in a disease that is incredibly deadly and incredibly devastating, it's really a remarkable change in status.
And what is this pill effectively doing?
So effectively, it blocks the RAS mutation, so KRAS. This is a major driver of a lot of cancers. It leads to cell signaling, growth, survival when it's mutated. We have this naturally in our system. When it's normal, we have a lot of regulations to shut it off. In cancer, it's like a light switch. It's just turned on, and it stays on, and it causes these cancer cells to grow, divide, and spread. And so this pill effectively blocks that activated state, turns it off, and effectively shuts down that growth mechanism of the cancer.
That's quite impressive. Is it likely that it could work with other cancers?
Yeah, we actually have KRAS mutations that we see in other cancers. Pancreatic is specific because over 90% of patients have a KRAS mutation, and this is why it's such a big deal. In other cancers like colon cancer and lung cancer, some of our aggressive, there are KRAS mutations in probably about anywhere from 15 to 30% of those cancers, and those trials are ongoing.
And the drug that is used, I'm not going to try and say it, I already struggled with the intro there. I know you said it earlier, but what's it called, and is it something that's been repurposed from something else? Because if it is, then it can be brought into play quite quickly.
Yeah, so it actually isn't. Daraxonrasib is a unique molecule. Scientists have been working on this for decades. It's been uniquely a very challenging molecule to target, and finally a drug has been developed that can target that. There are other drugs that exist, but nothing of this caliber and nothing that this potent. And so this is very exciting. So in the US, it's received FDA breakthrough therapy status. It's not available mainstream as of yet, but it's moving along that process quite quickly.
And how long will it take for it to be something that people can use, and is it expensive?
So the anticipation is from this point in time, it'll probably take several months to reach into the clinical masses. However, it is available in extended use protocols. It's still available in clinical trials in various different states of the disease and points in treatment. It's also available in colon cancer and lung cancer as well. This is one of these things that I have a feeling we are going to have a tough time. People need insurance in the US. It's probably going to be quite an expensive medication given the amount of innovation and research that was necessary to get to this point.
All right, well, listen, it sounds fantastic, really. And hopefully that's a start in solving pancreatic cancer, because that one is the most deadly so far. And yeah, we haven't really got a handle on it. Thank you very much, Tracy. Really good to talk to you. Thank you. Wow. All right, well, joining me in London is my panel, GB News contributor Paul Cox, and also journalist and commentator Jonathan Liss. Jonathan Liss, it's great, isn't it?
It's fantastic. You know, pancreatic cancer, as we're hearing, is the most lethal cancer that there is, and anything that can be deployed to improve survival rates is absolutely brilliant. And I really hope that we have, because what we do have in this country is a real problem, because obviously the NHS has to always decide what is cost effective when we're deciding about what drugs to give people. And then you have to make very, very difficult decisions about basically the worth of life and also how much time you're giving people. Because obviously there are some drugs that aren't necessarily going to cure something but can prolong life.
Well, that's this one. So it doubles what you would have had before. So that's quite substantial.
Yeah, well, I mean, I very much hope that people who are suffering from this illness have access to this medication very quickly.
Yeah.
It's good news. First bit of good news all day. Obviously, Everything Jonathan says is correct about accessibility to drugs. One thing it does highlight is how lucky we still are to have the NHS, as much as I've spent a lot of times moaning about it.
I don't know.
You don't know about that?
Well, somebody sent me a video because their partner is currently in hospital, and they went with this video along the, and obviously, if it were to be shown, all the faces would be, hidden, but he just did a quick video of how the hospital was, and there were people, he just went along, the people all along the corridors, just in beds along the corridors. There were just people just making, obviously ill, sick. It was like a war clinic. It looked like somewhere where you've done a makeshift clinic for people because, this is the only place left, the only hospital existing after others have been bombed. That's what it was like. And we're paying for that. We're paying a lot of money for that.
I think that the NHS has improved in the last couple of years, and
Really?
waiting times and waiting lists have been cut by the largest amount in many years.
Not quite. I mean, be honest here. The way they were cut was paying NHS trusts millions of pounds each month, so 3 million a month, to update the list. And the reason why the list was shorter was because people had died waiting, or they'd gone private, or they no longer needed it because, for whatever reason, they'd done something else, or they'd given up. So those people who were no longer necessary on the list were taken off the list, and that is the main reason why the list went down, not because they'd actually done anything in particular.
Well, I mean, obviously, I haven't heard that before.
Yeah.
No, I haven't heard that particular. I'm sure that the Department
Must have heard that before.
The Department of Health, I'm sure, would have a different interpretation of why.
No, that's a fact. I mean, that's a fact that they gave 3 million a month to NHS trusts to go through and update the lists. So the lists got shorter because, A, like I said, people had died waiting. B, they'd gone private, or C, they may have just given up.
The point I was specifically making was about the accessibility to drugs. The NHS needs as much of a revamp as nearly all of our institutions in this country, but we do have almost free access to drugs in the way US patients simply don't.
All right, let's bring in our panel in Washington, D.C., former Obama policy advisor Laurie Watkins and Republican strategist Matthew Hurt. Now, Laurie, earlier you talked about insurance and stuff because we were talking about accessibility to medicines and things like that. How bad is it in the US? Because people like me are thinking, I would like a hybrid system where you have the NHS, but you'd also have an insurance-based model as well.
Well, let me just say, I lost my uncle to pancreatic cancer. He died 6 weeks after being diagnosed, after retiring, worked for the Navy, was in the Air Force. Just a terrible, tragic situation. Lost my godfather to pancreatic cancer.
Oh, God.
I've seen what this specific cancer can do to people, and it is horrific.
Yeah.
Not that any cancer is better or worse, but this is the worst of what it does to somebody's body. So the fact that I am on this program tonight, holding back emotions because hearing that this is actually possible and going to provide relief to people that have been diagnosed with this is incredible. And it absolutely needs to be made available to every single person.
Yeah.
Why anyone would want to gatekeep a drug that can cure cancer, you're a monster.
Yeah. Well, I guess it doesn't cure it, but it extends the amount of life that you would have. So it kind of doubles your survival time, which is
but in that
very
time,
valuable.
What if a cure was found, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well,
that's how fast some of these advancements are moving. So when it buys you time, that could mean life or death.
Yeah. Matthew.
Well, Nana, we have an NHS-style system in the United States that is under the Veterans Administration. Long wait times for the men and women who've served in combat and in our military. And under the first Trump administration, he actually expanded options for veterans to go beyond the VA system, beyond the Veterans Administration system, and seek private care. Only in a system that allows for medical research and development do you generate the kind of research that produces life-saving or life-extending drugs like this? And so it's so encouraging to see, particularly for pancreatic cancer. It's a particularly nasty form of cancer, but only in systems that embrace change and opportunity do you produce the kind of research that produces a drug like this. In a system like the NHS, the government is incentivized to diminish risk, and so you don't see quite the investment in life-saving or life-extending drugs like this.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you for your thoughts. Really good to talk to you all. Right, let's take a look at some of the other newspapers and how they've covered the Henry Novak death story. Independent, Mahmood warns of dangerous mood over teens' murder. Front cover of the Telegraph, police face call to drop race bias policies. On the Times, review of race guidance to end two-tier policing. The iPaper, families' plea for calm ignored. On the Express, Kemi fury at White Lives Matter comment. And obviously the other papers, many leading with similar things. Well, let's talk about the government, because they've been accused of venturing into the realms of science fiction after discussions emerged about implanting microchips beneath prisoners' skin to track their movements and monitor their behaviour. The proposal was floated during a high-level meeting between Prison Minister Lord Timpson and some of the world's technology firms as ministers search for radical solutions to Britain's deepening prison crisis. Well, let's speak to my panel here in London and find out what they think about that. Paul Cox, a microchip under your skin, so wherever you go, I know.
Well, this is the problem, isn't it? It's like digital ID. It's not the data that's gathered, it's how the data is used. So obviously there is a benefit to understanding where a prisoner is or a criminal is at any given time. Yeah. It's how that data is used beyond that point, or if it's used indiscriminately across the wider population. I'd be worried to have that under my skin. I wouldn't want to be tracked by the government, and that's why I try and keep out of prison, Nana.
Well, exactly. Don't commit crime, isn't it, Jonathan?
Well, I mean, we do have already a system where prisoners are tagged when they are released.
They get the tag off there and put it on something else, don't they?
Well, that's illegal.
Some of them do that, yeah, but they do. Under the skin, you're not going to be able to get that out.
OK, well, the basic point remains that people are tagged when they get released early from prison, and they're quite clunky things, and they are obviously a big, imposition on and a restriction on their civil liberties for a while until the end of the sentence. So it's not unprecedented. I do find it difficult, the idea of sort of putting something under your skin, invading, a bodily invasive procedure, very difficult to swallow. I don't support it, and I don't know, and I certainly don't like the idea of maybe prisoners being the canaries down the coal mine, where this might be something that we all get, because if Elon Musk has his way, we'll all have microchips in a few years' time.
I love it. I think it's great.
You want microchips?
Well, if you want to be surveilled, that's a massive for you, but a lot of people
I'm
won't
not
want
going to commit crime. I'm not going to be in prison. I'm not going to be doing that, so I'm OK with it. I'm quite happy for those who commit crime. Also, I think, I mean, this may be controversial, but if you come here illegally, perhaps I think that could be another tag, so we know where people are.
Chip them up.
Well, just so you know where people are, so that afterwards, once you've, nobody can get away. And, until their cases are heard or whatever. I think I have no problem with that. And people who come here that way will be told that that's what will happen to you. So that's,
Well, a lot of people do come here on visas, and then when the visa's finished, they don't go home. So there are...
They get one as well, then.
Well, yeah, exactly. So, this is the point, isn't it? There is great... There are things that this would benefit from people being chipped. It's just... I don't know, the idea of someone other than yourself. I believe in sort of self-sovereignty as well. I'm not about to commit any crimes. I don't want to go to prison. I really don't.
Crimes against common sense, more like.
Crimes, well, yeah, luckily, at the moment, I mean, if someone like Zach Polanski gets in power, or if you have your dastardly way, Mr. List, then there might be some thought crimes. But and that's what I worry about. In all seriousness, I do worry how the data is used.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, people, I mean, the right-wing people who will be supporting this are also the people who accuse the government of having no handle on our data and who accuse the government of having too much power. So giving government the power to track our every movement and bodily function is probably a step too far. And as we know, there are very few things the government has access to that haven't or can't be hacked, either by criminals or by hostile foreign states or both. So the idea that, you know, my entire body or my brain or our brains could one day be hacked as well is pretty terrifying. And that's as good a reason as any not to allow the government anywhere near our bodies. And I genuinely think that government shouldn't be in our bedrooms and shouldn't be in our bodies. I think that's the basic principle.
Bit right-wing, that, Jonathan.
No, that's entirely left-wing. It's the right-wing people who, for years, wanted the governments to be able to decide what we could do with our bodies. It's right-wing people now that want sort of governments to tell women that you know what they can and can't do with the fetuses, the non-viable fetuses in their bodies. That we're talking about sort of contraception in some cases. That were sort of criminalising homosexuality for many years. The Republicans in America are the worst offenders of this because they're the ones who obviously talk about freedom, but then sort of want to go into your bedroom and sort of check that what you're doing isn't illegal.
Well, I think if you've broken the social contract with society, then unfortunately, and you're meant to go to
homosexuality?
Prison. I'm talking about if you break the laws, and that's not illegal.
Well, homosexual offences were illegal until 2003.
Yeah, and eventually somebody saw the light and realised that was a stupid idea. You know, to criminalise people just for their sexuality is nonsense. So, no, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the notion that if someone's broken the social contract because we've got set laws, that you have to worry about them because of some sort of... Forget it. You broke the law, you get a tag under your skin. Joining me now from Washington, my pal, former Obama policy advisor, Laurie Watkins.
You heard it here first, everyone. UK policy being announced on GBNews at 1:30 in the morning.
Absolutely. Listen, Matthew, I have no problem with it. They've broken the law. It's been proven they've broken the law. You just put the thing under their skin and when you release them so that you know where they are. Nothing wrong with that.
I have a serious problem with this. For instance, if someone has broken the law, it's been adjudicated, they've served their time and they're released back to the community, there is no reason why that the government should be permitted to insert a tracking chip into their body. And even for those who are imprisoned for long periods of time, I am not. I mean, we're all being tracked right here, right now. By the government in many instances, but I just don't think that this is a prudent use of government force in this instance, just like I'm not especially keen on facial recognition cameras, which has come up in conversation this episode and many other times. I'm a data privacy libertarian in that regard, and I don't think that the government should be chipping people to then release them to the wild after their imprisonment to track them down later.
Well, I mean, look, if maybe they're serving a part of the rest of their sentence externally, I mean, the conditions with which they'll be chipped would be discussed and agreed. But in principle, Laurie, do you think it's a decent idea?
Absolutely not, Nana. The fact that, what are we, like iRobot, that movie or something? That's what I'm thinking of is... If you can do what you need to do by surveying people with ankle monitors and bracelets and things like that, seems to be working fine for the most part, except when people out on parole cut them off, of course. That's an issue. But besides that, those instances of where that happens are so very small. I am absolutely not for tracking people in any sort of way, especially the government doing it, especially here in the United States, where we have people that turn over all the time and have access to your personal and sensitive information. Like, no, absolutely not.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be you. It wouldn't be anybody on the panel, unless either of us want to break the law. But it would be, instead of going to prison...
But that's what you say.
Yeah, but this is instead of...
So you want the government knowing all your moves, Nana? What you're doing after hours?
Well, I'm not going to break the law. But I'm presuming it's for those so that they don't stack up the prisons with people who've sort of done minor or whatever offences. I mean, whatever, you'd have to work out the reasoning and the parameters as to why you'd give them the chip. So they'd have to be someone who should have gone to prison or should be in prison or may have been released on bail or whatever the reasoning. But if it's somebody who's broken the law and in a way where you think it's important, you need to know where they are, I don't see what the problem is. I mean, come on, it's perfect. Why is everyone against the idea of prisoners who've done something wrong being tagged under the skin.
Does he believe in civil liberties?
Yeah, even a prisoner.
Prisoners have human rights.
No,
yeah.
but civil liberty, if you've broken the law, that's
No,
exactly
you
the
don't
thing you
forfeit
take
all
away.
your civil liberties.
Well, that's what's taken
you
away
don't
when you go to
forfeit
prison.
all your human rights if you go to prison.
No, civil liberties.
We're also
some
not
civil
dogs
liberties, not all
who
of them.
get
That's what's taken when you go
microchipped.
to-
We're also not dogs, you guys. We're not here to get microchipped like animals. You know, that happens to dogs. My dog, I adopted him, I rescued him, and he came with a chip that's in his little undercarriage area there. That, God forbid, anything ever happens to him and someone finds him and they can bring him to a vet. They run a scanner over it and it pops up with a number, and then they're able to find my information and contact me. That is for animals and for dogs.
Well, some might argue
what
that
you're
people
talking about for human beings, absolutely outrageous and a violation of somebody's personal freedoms and liberties.
Yeah, but if you listen, if you're in prison, the whole point of prison is to take away your freedoms and liberties. That's why you're in there, because you've committed some sort of crime.
Good, then you should be in prison.
Yes, but if just say this person could be released a little bit earlier, because in this country I think you do about 10% of your sentence, really, to be honest. It's getting a bit ridiculous. And then they release you out there even though you should have served more. People like that, I think, could have the microchip under the skin.
So Nana, perhaps you need to look. So I ask you to consider looking at your legal system and your laws, and if those are not strong enough, which it sounds that you don't agree that they are, then that's the policy that needs to be changed. You don't have a reactionary consequence or response to something, which is put freaking chips underneath people's arms to track them.
I have no problem. If you've committed crime, you've come here illegally, I'm sorry, but that's just the view I hold. I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
I want to see you and Bev turn
now we're talking about illegals.
Well, I mean, I don't need to go head-to-head with anyone there, but this is just my opinion, and I welcome other opinions that are different. I'm not going to, I might be somebody who agrees in freedom of speech and all those things, but I think once you break the social contract, which is the law, then I believe, there's a prison somewhere in South America where they had a serious problem with drugs and murders and everything. So what they did was this, and I'm going to find the prison. I'll try and find it before we get back on the next hour. And what they did was they made the punishment so bad that when you're in the prison you hated it so much. And you know what? That cut down crime by about 98%. Nobody wanted to go to prison and everybody started behaving themselves. Quite shocking, really. So I think that sometimes these things can also act as a deterrent. I see no problem with it whatsoever.
If you start putting chips in my undercarriage, much like Laurie's dog, then it's going to put me off. I think this. We talk about the social contract like it's one way.
You like that, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I've got a dog as well, but her chip is somewhere slightly more less discreet, shall we say? But I would say that the social contract works both ways as well. I fear now, as a citizen, that the government and the law creators are working against us. It's illegal to do almost anything now. I mean, we've got people in this country, and I know it's an old adage and we keep repeating it, particularly on GB News, that have served over a year in prison for a tweet. So I'd be worried what constituted breaking the law in the future.
Well, yeah, there is that, I get it. But it would have to be somewhere where you've really seriously broken the law.
But who decides that, Nana?
Paul makes an excellent point. Who is to say in some future Labour government, in particular for many of the viewers of this program, to have people who engage in hate speech chipped to make sure that you can find them? I'm gonna keep the principled civil libertarian stance on keeping people free, and once you've served your time, you're back out into the community, and until you engage in another infraction, you're presumed a good citizen.
And I saw that we had a headline in my pile of news here that we're supposed to talk about something where they are monitoring people who are saying anti-Islamic statements and sentences, that those people are going to start to be tracked. No, I thought it was one of the headlines we were going to talk about. So that's outrageous as well.
Well, if you work with the principle that, well, government might come along and do this, or they might come and do... the law is the law, so you set the law, and if somebody's broken the law and you're releasing them early because everyone seems to get out early, then I don't see the problem with people who've broken the law being microchipped for the rest of to the end of their sentence if they're being let out early, and they're the kind of prisoners that you need to know where they are. Maybe they've done something where they've been, bothering and harassing and all that kind of stuff. Then I think perhaps that I wouldn't have a problem with it. Jonathan, this final word to you. Go on, lay it on me. What you got?
I think it's completely wrong. It's a sci-fi, it's dystopian, it won't work, it'll be too expensive. And you just said, well, until they finish their sentence. So you're going to basically sort of remove a microchip from someone's arm or something and give them scarring. It's a sci-fi solution. It has no bearing on reality, and it is absolutely the wrong idea to give the government even more power over our lives, over our bodies. And if you think that this would stop at prisoners, I think you are mistaken, because we know the government always wants to take more power, just like police officers always want to take more power. We saw that during COVID. You do not budge an inch. You don't say, okay, this cohort of people can have this infraction on their civil liberties and we'll all be fine, we'll all be safe. That's not how it works. It never has been.
We're talking about criminals here.
Yeah, we can all be criminals if the law changes.
No, we're talking about...
Yes, we could be.
No, well, you know, we're not talking about that. We're talking about criminals, and I think there's nothing wrong with it. All right, stay with us. More coming up in the next hour, including this.
But you keep telling us how we're winning this war. The president keeps saying, well, the war's over. Completely annihilated. The war is not over.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, this is your GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. There's a big band of rain making its way across the country at the moment, but even away from that, there will be some pretty hefty showers and some strong gusty winds. Showers already across parts of Scotland and northeast England, but then this spell of persistent rain sweeps up from the southwest. Some relatively high rainfall totals with this, but then it's the showers following in behind across parts of Northern Ireland, much of England and Wales, and later into southern parts of Scotland, which could really pack a punch. Temperature-wise, well, they're near normal for the time of year, but watch out for some strong gusty winds with those showers. They will make it feel a little bit fresher, and definitely so much fresher than it was this time last week. Into this evening, and we still have some of that persistent rain across parts of Scotland. Northern areas a bit more showery, but across central areas it is going to be pretty wet here. And then looking further south, it's these intense thunderstorms that we need to watch out for. They're going to be pretty widespread. They're going to bring frequent lightning, often going to be thundery, and there'll be some large hail mixed in, especially across parts of northern England. Further south, even here the showers could be heavy and thundery at times, but there'll be slightly fewer of them, with some drier, brighter, clearer breaks in between. Overnight, the showers continue. The heaviest ones will largely ease, but there will still be plenty of showers and still some strong, blustery, gusty winds, especially for the time of year. All that does mean temperatures won't drop a huge amount, so most places, particularly the towns and cities, holding up in double digits. But then Thursday's going to be another showery day. Perhaps the showers not quite as intense as some of the ones that we're likely to see through today, but nonetheless, there could still be some rumbles of thunder and some heavy ones mixed in. Any sunny spells will be pretty limited for most, perhaps some towards the south and southeast, but even here, showers will be pushing through and there will still be some strong gusty winds with temperatures, well, looking similar to today. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Bo, they are under no illusion.
Ray,
are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis.
In the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there.
With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter? So that's a very live question. Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Welcome to GB News. We're live from London. I'm Nana Akua. We're with the stories that are shaping Britain and America tonight.
So you keep telling us how we're winning this war. The president keeps saying, well, the war's over. Completely annihilated. The war is not over.
Nearly 100 days on from US-Israeli attacks on Iran that triggered the conflict, a stark warning has now been issued that tens of millions of people could starve if the Strait of Hormuz remains closed. Forget sniffer dogs. What you've just seen is the latest robo-dogs that have been patrolling World Cup venues in Texas ahead of the tournament. They're going to be helping to assist the security team and...
It's addictive. It's more addictive than cigarettes, I believe, especially for younger folk. You've got the colours on them. It's like multicolours and all that. It's attracting young kids in a way, you know.
We had the smoking ban for people born after 2008, but is it time to ban the vape? Research is now telling us that mango and watermelon flavours are among those posing some of the greatest risks. I'm Nana Akua. This is The Late Show Live. So welcome to The Late Show Live. Joining me this evening in London is my panel, GB News contributor and comedian Paul Cox, journalist and commentator Jonathan Liss, and in Washington, D.C. is the former Obama policy advisor Laurie Watkins and Republican strategist Matthew Hurt. Thank you for joining us tonight. So a stark warning tonight from the United Nations, which says that tens of millions of people could starve if the Strait of Hormuz remains closed for more than a few weeks. The key shipping route has been thrown into chaos by the conflict, disrupting the flow of fuel and supplies around the world. Aid agencies say that they're already being forced into impossible choices as transport costs surge and deliveries of food and medicine are delayed. And tonight, Donald Trump insists that diplomatic efforts in the Middle East are continuing, with the US president dismissing reports that talks with Iran have broken down as fake news and saying that conversations are going on continuously. And also breaking tonight, Iran's Revolutionary Guards Corps has attacked the US 5th Fleet headquarters, as well as an airbase and helicopters in the regional county using missiles and drones. Iranian media has reported this in response to what the IRGC described as a US attack on a communications tower south of Qasem Island. The IRGC Navy also targeted a vessel it identified as Panaya with missiles in response to what it said was a US attack on an Iranian tanker near the Strait of Hormuz with a projectile that damaged the engine room, Iranian media has reported. However, US Central Command has denied Iran's IRGC claims that it struck US Fifth Fleet headquarters in Bahrain and the US Air Base. Well, I can now speak with author and columnist for the Daily Mail, Erbil Ganasti. Erbil, you wrote a really good piece. Thank you for joining me this evening. You wrote a great piece on how Iran has changed the Middle East forever, and it might have also changed the shape of Europe. And what we are seeing is the effects of the closing of the Strait of Hormuz. Tell us a bit more about what you wrote.
Well, it is clear. You just listed a bunch of things that affects the insurance of the shipments, and forget about the actual shipment of the oil that the Europe needs. That has to come from the Gulf. So this war proved one thing, that the New World Order is transforming, and players are taking their place. And from now on, the oil and the natural resources from that region to the West has to take another route. Yeah. This is a fact right now. It's the point of whether Iran won or US won, President Trump's priorities with elections. Yes, those are realities, but the historic turnover right now, historic moment is this war is going to have a legacy that something has changed in the New World Order, and that Europe has to think how it's going to survive from now on, who's going to go in bed with. And that's my article is about. Yeah. Because what we're seeing, of course, is the effect of that closure. And it doesn't just affect the countries that you can, you'd imagine. I mean, it's across parts of Africa as well, where they're not getting the oil, those supplies that they need, and the things that would go through the Straits. And also what we're seeing now is a big thought process as to how best to avoid the Strait and find other routes. What other routes are available? Well, there is only one route available. That goes from east to west or west to east. That's the land bridge, natural land bridge that Turkey is. Turkey is situated on Asia and on Europe. And that's the only country between that. So that's where the pipeline is going to go through, for one thing. If the pipeline is going to carry the oil, which it can carry from Syria, Iraq, Iran, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Azerbaijan. All these countries provide oil, natural gases, and they go west from the east. They are in the east. In between, there's Turkey. The other route is Russia. Russia is no longer the viable route. The third route is you can ship this thing if they made it from the Hormuz, Bab el-Mandeb, and Suez Canal, those three choke points. The fourth choke point is in Turkey, is in the Bosphorus. Turkey is keeping that open. So in case whatever comes from Ukraine and Russia that feeds Europe or supplies Europe, if that's the case, it comes through Turkey. Turkey provides it, both waterways, through landways, is the bridge to Europe. There is no other bridge right now. That's a reality. That's the end result of the Iran-US war from that European perspective. Do you think that the kind of globalization of the oil market might be another thing that we might consider changing? So, for example, the oil that we pump out from the North Sea, we send it off somewhere else. We don't even, it's sold on the international market. Might countries around this start thinking, well, let's change the way it's done and actually start consuming and selling our own oil internally and actually become more self-sufficient? Well, look, right now, U.S. is supplying natural gas, LNG, or whatever it is supplying, all that excess stuff that energy sufficient country is U.S. right now. It's the big supplier. It's supplying Europe. So Europe needs other alternatives. It cannot depend on one. So like North Sea is fine, Africa, Algeria, or whatever other sources on that end. But Turkey is indispensable right now. The pipeline is going to be doubled. That's coming from Azerbaijan. You know, that's a, I don't know, $10–15 billion investment, but that's going to double the oil that is, or natural gas that's coming to the east end of the Europe. And that's, everybody knows that. This is their lifeline for Europe. And don't forget, that's also the other way the goods go from London all the way to China. And that's how the economy is going to continue to survive. Otherwise, not only energy will not come, no more the goods will go, and that's a choke point for the European economy. That's a British economy. You know, that's a key country. That's a new life. That's the 21st century for you.
Yeah. Isn't the irony, though, America, does it use much oil from Iran? I don't think it does. Isn't the aim of Donald Trump to actually stop the oil from going to China?
We don't need, in the West, we don't need any oil from Iran at this time. I mean, it is, that oil goes to China anyway, Japan, South Korea, all those countries. Okay, that's, I mean, President Trump is brilliant. You know, he's applying, his job is America first. And what's he doing? He's fighting against Chinese economy, Japanese economy, Korean economy, in a sense, or European economy, in a sense, in order to prop up the U.S. economy. At the end of the day, everybody has to take care of their own backyard today. That's the new world order. This is what we are in 21st century. So whatever happens in Iran, in the Hormuz, doesn't affect America. It affects Europe primarily. Yeah. And it affects the China and the other countries. So what does why should President Trump care about anything that's happening there? This is a perfect status quo right now. Let it be freeze. Let the negotiations continue like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
The time is on President Trump's side at this time.
All right, Erbil Ganasti, thank you very much. He's an author and columnist for the Daily Mail. He's written a piece called Trump's War on Iran Has Changed the Middle East Forever. It just might have changed the shape of Europe too. Right. Well, before I get to my next guest, let's hear from US Secretary of State Marco Rubio earlier.
Iran has lost a substantial percentage of their missile launchers, and their economy is far worse today, and I mean far worse today, than it was 6 to 9 months ago. And they are looking at hundreds of billions of dollars of reconstruction costs just to get to where they were 6 months ago.
Mr. Rubio, you keep telling us how we're winning this war. The president keeps saying,
well, the war's over
completely annihilated. The war is not over. And yet the American people see how we're losing at the pump and with their costs, and yet this thing still hasn't been resolved. Every day he tweets out, oh, we've obliterated them, we've annihilated them, they're going to surrender. But yet we still find ourselves spending billions of dollars a week.
Well, with me now is Director of Policy Analysis at the Middle East Forum, Michael Rubin. Yeah, interesting there that somebody actually called him to task and said the war isn't over. You're saying it's over, but it isn't over, because it isn't, is it?
Well, it's a different phase of the war, but you're absolutely right. I mean, the fact of the matter is, ships are getting hit, drones are flying, although it's orders of magnitude less than what it was, for example, 6 weeks ago.
Yeah. So where are we with the war? Because Donald Trump, first it was that we're closer to peace, you know, there's an agreement imminently, you know, and now we're hearing that they're now fighting, firing rockets, and everything's kind of gone back to square one.
Well, put it this way, I think it's safe to say Donald Trump isn't going to win a Nobel Peace Prize right now. But beyond that, with Iran, two things to note. First of all, if we believed all their press releases about what they've hit and so forth, pretty much all of our aircraft carriers would have been sunk 4 times over. The fact of the matter is they often announce complete nonsense. That said, and the fact of the matter is, with Iran, it's always 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. There's a lot of positioning with regard to negotiations, and most of the negotiations are occurring in the posturing that occur before you even get to the negotiating table. And sorry, the last point would be that we really don't even know who we're negotiating with,
well, that's
because it's not clear who's in charge.
Yeah, you see, that's what I thought, because Mujtaba Khomeini, apparently he's got one eye, one leg, and we don't even know whether he's actually alive. So who are they talking to? Who's making the deals? And I suspect the RGC has fragmented. So the leader, because they've killed all the leaders, which is a good thing, but a bad thing in the sense that now it's completely disjointed and probably working in cells, which means that when you do make a deal, who are you negotiating with, and why would anybody listen to anybody else? So...
Well, I mean, I think most people analyze this and believe that Ali Vahidi, the former defense minister, is in charge, but he's not the one we're talking with.
Oh, OK. So who are they talking to then to negotiate this peace?
Well, we're talking to Mohammed Bakr Kalibaf, who is the Speaker of the Parliament, also has a Revolutionary Guard background. But here's the danger. I mean, when you have someone with whom you're negotiating, then it becomes in all of his competitors' interests to undermine him. And if we were to have a coherent negotiation strategy combined with our military, then what we should be doing is negotiating with whomever we're negotiating with and simultaneously targeting those who might be trying to backstab him inside Iran. We're not doing that. And so, I mean, in effect, we're stirring the horn. We're swatting at the hornet's nest, but we're not actually getting rid of it.
Yeah, and with what you've just said there, doesn't sound like they'll get rid of it anytime soon.
No, I mean, well, put it this way. We're not going to get rid of it anytime soon if winning the war is as easy as simply Donald Trump wishing and declaring that we've won the war. The fact of the matter is we have a real problem on our hand with regard to freedom of navigation, and I'm not sure whether Donald Trump fully understands the issue isn't just the Strait of Hormuz. As international shipping, for example, gets diverted around the Cape of Good Hope, we've had a resurgence of piracy off the Somali coast. That's something that we hadn't seen in about 10 years, 15 years. I was in Ethiopia recently, and people inside Addis Ababa, the capital, are worried about whether there's going to be a famine because there's not enough diesel fuel in order to ship food from the countryside to the capital. I mean, we're in a real predicament right now.
Well, see, that's the thing. As I mentioned earlier, there are countries around Africa where people wouldn't have thought that this would have an impact on them, and it has. What does this mean, then, for the rest of the world? What does it mean for Donald Trump in terms of negotiating? Because I don't think that the war is actually winnable because, A, you don't know who you're negotiating with. It's all fragmented. B, even if you do negotiate with someone, as you said, the leader will be undermined by everyone else around him or her. So how do you win this war?
Well, first of all, the problem I would say that needs to be resolved immediately is with regard to the politics within the United States. We're not going to be able to actually triumph if we are fighting each other politically and don't have any common goal. If the goal of Democrats, for example, is to undermine Donald Trump, or the goal of Donald Trump is to embarrass the Democrats, then the Iranians are simply going to take advantage of that because, I mean, frankly, they're sophisticated and they're masters of this. This reminds me in many ways of the backbiting which we saw in 1994 with Bill Clinton and the agreed framework in North Korea. And of course, if history has a pattern, North Korea later developed nuclear weapons. That's what we need to be worried about. But if there is a ceasefire, and this is where I think it gets interesting, the parallel which I would see would be 1999 with Serbia, because you remember at the time, Bill Clinton bombed Serbia to try to get the Serbians to stop ethnically cleansing the Kosovar Albanians. Ultimately, that part succeeded, but Slobodan Milosevic remained in power. However, Serbia was so indebted and so many of Slobodan Milosevic's supporters were killed that the next year there was a people power revolution and he was ousted. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised to see Iran on the same trajectory.
Yeah, well, then that would be a slight sort of win, in a way, for Donald Trump, I guess. He wanted change, but he wanted the people within the environment to do it themselves in a way. He would trigger it, and then they'd get on with it. So let's see, we'll watch and wait. Michael Rubin, thank you very much. He's a Director of Policy Analysis at the Middle East Forum. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Well, joining me now is my panel, GB News contributor, Paul Cox. He's a comedian as well. Sorry, I missed that bit. journalist and commentator Jonathan Liss, and then in Washington, D.C., former Obama policy advisor Laurie Watkins and Republican strategist Matthew Hurt. We'll start with the US and Laurie Watkins. Is Trump is he making a bit of a pig's ear of it, or has he got a point, and do you think that actually he could, inadvertently, I don't know whether he thought this might happen, but create some sort of regime change from within Iran?
No, I don't think that was a plausible alternative or a goal based on the strategy that the administration decided to move forward with. That would have had to have been done, I would say, like within the first 2 to 3 weeks of the engagement, and that didn't happen. There was also talks at the very beginning that the United States was going to supply weapons and armory to the Kurds. We've screwed them so many times in the past, I'm just going to say it, that they were not going to be used as a tool, basically, by the United States and this administration to take up arms, go do the United States dirty work, essentially, only to be stabbed in the back or have their throats slit, like the United States has done to them repeatedly in the past when we've had conflicts over in the Middle East. So that was a second alternative. Then there were talks of, Ravi Pavlov, a man who hasn't lived in Iran, for example, since he was, I think he was 5 years old. His father was also not supported. People did not, look to his father as the legacy that he was going around messaging. And so there was this huge disconnect of who could come in to fill this role. And unfortunately, what we have is a continuation of the Ayatollah, of this monstrous regime, this oppressive regime, and it looks like there's no end in sight. Every single day there's talk of there's going to be a negotiation. We're just waiting. Today the latest was Iran needs 3 days to get back to us. I mean, it's absolutely absurd. As somebody who used to work at the Department of Defense, I've for the last 2 years, I have never seen anything like what I am seeing, Nana.
Matthew, was Donald Trump right to go in and try and do something? Because I suspect that, he was concerned, apparently, that Iran were on their way to having a nuclear weapon. You don't really want them to have one because, especially given the way they've treated Israel and all the proxies around Israel and all of that, they're probably the last people that you'd want to have a nuclear weapon. Was he right in principle to even attempt to prevent that if that was an honest strategy?
Well, Nana, 94 days ago on this very program on Friday, February 27th, you hosted, and I said it was a foolish idea literally hours before bombs began being dropped in Iran. President Trump did not have a strategy going into this. I have been against this since the very beginning. President Trump announced several weeks prior to the initial strikes that the Iranian people deserved, that America was on the way, and then the regime proceeded to kill tens of thousands of protesters in the street, many of the people who could have taken up arms had the president acted a little bit sooner. Every time Iran comes up on this program, just last week there was a representative from a pro-Trump think tank who said, we're in Act 3, we're in Act 4. This is absolutely foolish. We are being played for fools. It is like Charlie Brown and Lucy and the football. It has been this way for the better part of 2 months. We cannot trust who we're negotiating with. We do not know who we are negotiating with. And as was just said, whoever we're negotiating with is there are people angling around that person to destabilize them. This has not been a good idea from the get-go. And I hate that it is an opportunity for me to say I told you so, but I told you so. We shouldn't have been there, and we shouldn't be there now.
Thank you, Matthew.
You slightly enjoyed saying I told you so.
That's the first time I've agreed with a Republican on this programme.
Jonathan Liss, come on.
Look, I absolutely agree with what Matthew just said, and it's not often I agree with a Republican strategist, but this was a total disaster from the very beginning, and it is a catastrophe for the United States. It's a catastrophe for the Iranian people as well, by the way, because often they get ignored in the great geopolitical sort of strategic discussions. But we have to remember that thousands of Iranians are dead who should be alive, including 165 schoolgirls.
Well, they were killed by the
well, I think
165
schoolgirls should be alive. They are not alive.
Hold on. Oh, yeah, I hear you. But just to clear it up, the 165 school children, absolutely. But 50,000 of their own people they executed. And we have had a lot of Iranian people saying that they wanted some intervention of some sort, and they were thankful that America were there.
Well, I don't think many Iranians
and
are
14
thankful.
U.S. service members have been killed as well.
Right. Yeah. And I don't think the Iranian people wanted bombs to fall on them. And when you talk to a lot of Iranian dissidents inside and outside of Iran, they say, yes, the regime is awful, but it's not helping us to have bombs falling on our neighbourhoods and to have Israel flatten entire sort of neighbourhoods in Tehran. Because let's face it as well, we don't talk enough about Israel. Israel and the United States have completely different objectives in this war. Israel's objective is total chaos in the Middle East. That is not, and a long drawn-out war, which is very much in their interest. That is not in the interest of the United States. And it's why completely ludicrous that Trump is openly saying we did this for Israel. They want different things. Trump is the only president stupid enough to listen to Netanyahu. He's been trying to persuade every single US president for the last 30 years to declare war on Iran.
I think
we see the consequences.
To Israel there. I don't think that's quite fair. Let's be honest, because Iran have been attacking Israel by proxies, for many, many years. So let's not act as though
Israel started this war
Israel have been attacked by Hezbollah, the Houthis, Hamas, all of these around Israel, and that's why they have such a sophisticated...
It's not Iran.
Let me finish. Iran's proxies. We know that those groups work and they are proxies of Iran.
Well,
so they are working via Iran. Be honest.
Well, I mean, we could have a conversation about who's the funding of Hamas. We've had this conversation many times. I'm not saying that. I'm not defending the regime, Nana. I'm saying that it was completely stupid to attack them. And what we now have is an impasse where Iran has become more powerful. The regime has become more radicalised, more hardline. There is no longer the Ayatollah who had a fatwa on nuclear weapons. Most of the evidence suggested that there was no attempt at making a nuclear weapon. That might change now in the future. All of the so-called objectives of the war have failed to materialise, from regime change to stopping the nuclear weapon to decimating the military. And of course, the one thing that the war has achieved is to close a vital strait, which is now, as you were saying, is going to cause mass starvation around the world and to cause an energy shock the like of which we've never seen. We haven't even seen the effects of what is going to hit us. And to say that the United States is somehow insulated from that is complete fallacy. Clearly, the United States is part of the world. They depend on oil markets just as everyone. American consumers don't care that maybe oil companies are making more money now because they see vastly increased prices, the petrol tanks, just as we are. And that's just the start of it, because obviously food prices and fertiliser is going to go up as well.
That's enough.
I'm saying it's a complete disaster for US power as well.
You're going on now, because I've got to get Cox in there. No, I'll tell you when the answer ends. That's enough. I've heard enough. It was like a monologue. You're not having one of those. Paul Cox.
I love you, Nana.
Yeah, say that. Don't encourage her.
Be quiet. Be quiet.
Yes, I mean, I do admire your bravery, Jonathan, but it's not paid off yet.
Sorry, not you, Matthew. I was getting confused.
Let's not forget that Iran are the biggest sponsor of terror on the planet as we stand, and that we should never forget that. The idea of going in and stopping that, I supported. I've been on this programme many times with Matthew, where he's told me that's an absolutely ridiculous idea, and he's probably right at the moment, because I'm not seeing any evidence that it's working out well at all. I don't know who we're negotiating with, and even if we did negotiate with them, how it would pan out for the US and Israel, etc. I do think that Netanyahu, whether it's meant to have been that way or not, has made, in terms of the optics right now, Donald Trump look a little silly, which is incredibly unfortunate, because we're very much reliant on Donald Trump being the powerhouse in the world, and if he has been kowtowing to Benjamin Netanyahu, then we're all in a bit of trouble, I think.
Well, look, I think it's a laudable aim if he was honestly trying for regime change and to stop Iran from having a nuclear weapon. I'm sure we can all agree that we don't really want them to have one, right? So there is that. So at least let's end on a positive note that Donald Trump is attempting to do something good. All right, let's move on to some other news. Let's talk about those robot dogs which are now patrolling FIFA World Cup venues in the US, sparking a fierce debate about surveillance and privacy. Have a listen. Yeah, so if you're listening on radio, it's sort of like a multicoloured thing with 4 legs and a square box for a head. It's a robot dog, which is apparently going to, it's kind of like a 4-legged machine roaming around stadiums in Texas. It's gone viral, the particular clip that was there. It claims that they'll be scanning the faces of football fans as part of security checks. But the companies behind the technology, Boston Dynamics, insists that simply is not true. The robots, known as Spot, are equipped with 360 degrees cameras, thermal sensors and artificial intelligence to detect suspicious activity, investigate unattended packages and help keep venues secure. With me now is data privacy and digital surveillance cybersecurity expert at Privy B, Harry Morgans. Harry, this is, I feel like I'm watching, not Total Recall, what was the other one? RoboCop, but it's a dog.
It feels like it looks cute at first impression, but then you realize what's in it, and it gets a lot less cute very quickly.
Well, what is in it?
It's not so much the facade to be scared of. It's not the fact that it's a cute dog following you around. It's what's behind it. It's the database. It's the data collection, the surveillance tech that's following you. You think you're going to a football match and see a fun sport, but at the end of the day, the cameras on this thing are not going to some CCTV back room and that's it. I mean, they're being recorded. They need evidence if something happens. And with the lack of transparency on where these recordings are being stored, how long they're being stored for, and most importantly, how they're being cross-referenced against other police use or other databases that you're now in by being seen.
But some people might say, well, if you're not doing anything bad, so what? This dog is recording, checking out the activity, making sure that everything is above board, basically doing the job that a human would do, except it's just a robot.
Sure, and George Orwell in 1984 thought the same thing, right? It's surveillance tech. It starts off small and gradual, and as people accept it, it gets broader and broader, and before you know it, you have mass surveillance, and people have given up every shred of privacy there is left. So it's not about I have nothing to hide at this particular sporting event. It's bigger than that. It's what if something happens a block away, some kind of criminal act, and they do a dump of all the recordings in that area. Now you're going to forever be in the database associated with some crime you had nothing to do with. But every time it comes across, it's dangerous.
Well, I mean, whether you'd be associated just because your face is in shot doesn't necessarily mean you're associated. But some people might argue that actually, you're a willing victim to this surveillance state because you've got your mobile phone that's surveying everything you say and everything you do. You've opened the door to giving your data up for certain things that you want to get involved in, and that is the new world order. That's the way things are going, and like it or lump it, you don't have to be part of it. Don't go to the World Cup. Watch it on the TV.
Sure, at least on your phone you have some control. You have privacy settings, and if you want to be paranoid, you can be paranoid. Cameras used to be bolted to a wall. Now they follow you around stadiums. I mean, is this dystopian future that we suddenly are waking up into? And we just cannot accept this as the new normal. We have to be vigilant to protect the privacy we have left.
So what would you say that we do? Because all the other options, whilst, we could be more private, but then the benefits that come with these are quite substantial. So law and order, it could be a great improvement. I mean, we've had facial recognitions at some events, and instead of catching, and yes, I don't think the data was fully recorded for a long time. I think that it was dropped after however long, but they found criminals that they've been looking for 20 years.
Absolutely. I think surveillance tech in itself is not necessarily a bad thing. I think there is positive surveillance tech that can help keep places safer. For example, this robotic dog would be a great tool to patrol higher risk, more dangerous, more violent areas that we don't want officers to go into.
Exactly.
I see the positive.
Yeah.
The risk, though, is not the actual surveillance tech. The risk is the data that goes into the tech and the lack of transparency afterwards. So in answer to your question of what we should do, we have to put pressure on these organizations and the politicians to be more transparent. We have to ask the questions of, if that dog walks by me and records a logo I have on my shirt, or an LGBTQ flag on a bag you're holding, or something sensitive to a political party you're supporting, is that database is that going to be part of a database that you now have any kind of control or visibility over, or are you forever labeled as part of that category?
I suppose you could always wear a balaclava, but that probably won't go down well.
Then you might be flagged as the crime they're trying to stop.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, I guess. But like you said, I can see the benefits of this, and if used in the right way, I guess what it is the transparency. What is the data going to be used for, and also who will have access? Because even it's going to be recorded somewhere, someone somewhere, because there's a human at the end of that trail. Who is that human, and what is their position? Because you need to know this could be somebody who could use that information against you in some way.
For sure, and the human is the least of the concerns. The scarier part's the AI that they say is inside of it, right? A human could look at it and say with common sense, that person's no threat.
Yeah,
but
true.
AI might make some crazy, half-baked connection, and suddenly you find a policeman at your front door.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that, because I can remember they had a car that was powered without a human, and they put it in a scenario where it had somebody, you're in the car, so you're in the car but you're not driving it, it's powered, and there was like a load of school children crossing the road. So what the car did was it crashed the car away from the school children but killed you in the car. So it wasn't bothered about you, because it was thinking, fewer people, I'll kill myself, because that way I won't hurt the school children. So I see what you mean. There's no human intervention. AI will make a snap decision based on the information it has, and there's no stopping it.
I think that was part of the movie I, Robot as well. It's terrifying.
Is it?
And GDPR is a great step. I mean, you guys have some of the strongest privacy laws in the world over in Europe and the UK. The problem is enforcement and visibility, right? Just because an individual has the ability to subpoena FIFA or Boston Dynamics that makes the robot or whoever else, most people don't know where to submit a GDPR request or even how to do it.
Yeah.
So the education side is also a really good thing for people to spend some time reading about online and learning how it works.
All right. Well, listen, Harry Morgans, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. So data, privacy and digital surveillance cybersecurity expert. Thank you. All right. Well, joining me in London, my panel, Jonathan Liss and also Paul Cox. Right, we're going to chat about this. Do you want to chat about this?
Yeah, look,
creepy little dog with a tissue box on a head.
Yeah, but have they tested it? Because there isn't much hooliganism in the United States, and when there's 3,000 blokes that have been on the Jolly Juice for a week and the team have just lost, how is that dog going to stand up? It's going to get thrown about all over the place, isn't it?
I don't know. I think it's probably got something on it where it's probably quite strong.
Do you think it can fire out? Do you think it's got a water pistol?
No, it's got taser hands.
Oh, brilliant! So now we've got an AI, a robotic taser dog. I'm just going to watch it at home.
I am going to watch it at home as well.
No, I agree with everything that Harry was saying just there. These are you justify this kind of technology by saying I've got nothing to hide, and then that is used as an excuse to surveil you all the time. And the fact that you might not be committing a crime doesn't mean that you want, a bit like the conversation we were having before, doesn't mean that you're happy for the government, or should be happy for the government or anyone else for that matter, to snoop on you at all times of the day. You know, going to the toilet is not illegal, but you don't want anyone else to see you do it.
So whose toilet you're going in?
The robot won't come with you.
I'm not talking. Look, the robot. What is the point? What is the point of this? So I can understand that there is a valuable use potentially for AI. For example, when now you go into the O2, for example, you go into the floor of the O2 arena. And you go through an AI sort of detector, which can tell if you have something a bit suspicious on you that's out of the ordinary, and it seems to be quite effective. They've even done it at the British Museum now, so you don't have a metal detector anymore, you just walk through the AI. So that's interesting, and I think that we shouldn't completely close off possibilities to that. But when you go up to a robo-dog, and there's all they're surveilling you in all kinds of ways, we have no idea where that data is going, what it's being used for, and the potential for it to be hacked or used to various ends. And then we know what happens with the United States, a highly militarized culture. And we know what happens with drones. Drones are not cuddly little things anymore. You just fly around Regent's Park to get films. They kill people. And there's a whole conversation to be had about drone warfare, where drones are taking autonomous decisions to kill people, about who should be responsible for that, how there can be any sort of charges laid against a drone, for example, if no human has been involved in murdering someone. It's a drone. So I really think we have to rein this technology in before the technology starts to kill people or hurt people without any kind of human intervention.
Yeah, this is like the Matrix. Is that what you're saying? Well, we'll be overtaken by
saying that if you have a robo-dog like that, there's nothing to stop the robo-dog being armed and killing you.
Yeah,
if it wants to.
Well, you've been watching RoboCop, but that's exactly what the dog is. It's a RoboCop. Right, let's bring in Laurie Watkins and Matthew Hurt, the panel in Washington, D.C. I'm frightened to hear what Matthew's going to say about this. Matthew, RoboDog, like RoboCop, you can stroke it. It's really nice. No?
I'm expressing all the same concerns Jonathan and your previous guest have expressed. There's no telling where the data goes. It removes accountability of a human actor. In the United States, we have major questions about excessive use of force by law enforcement. Now you remove the human accountability element, and you put that in the hands of right now a remote control dog, but later a fully autonomous AI dog that makes decisions. It's a dangerous step toward, again, surrendering our civil liberties and our security.
Well, it's kind of what Stephen Hawking was saying, that when AI maybe starts to think for itself, which I think it's quite close to doing, making decisions, then humans are in trouble because it might think that we are the problem, and many would probably agree with it. Laurie?
We are going incredibly way too fast with AI. Around the entire world, because there are no guidelines and regulations and rules and even a roadmap, I would go so far as to say, of how this is going to continue to affect our civilization. And they keep getting bigger, they keep swallowing up more data, they keep becoming ingrained in more businesses and corporations and companies that control and collect excessive amounts of data. And I would say that eventually, besides a health illness or a disease, or getting some kind of diagnosis like that the second killer is going to be data. It's going to be the data that is used against people. We're already seeing it here with divisions and polarization of political parties, for example. This is only going to continue to get worse, and so I just think that we need to really pump the brakes. And those that are making tons of money off of this, they're not going to do so. And so it has to be up to regulators and lawmakers to ensure that we have adequate policy that's not going to cause undue harm to citizens here and around the world, not just here in the United States, because this is a global issue.
Paul Cox.
Look, I mean, it is getting quite sinister now, isn't it? I thought the Henry Novak stuff was going to make me have a heart attack, but the rest of the show has all been about AI and how I'm going to be chipped up, and it's going to be in my undercarriage, and there's going to be dogs following me about. Why do they have to make them cute? I just want to break a couple of laws. I just want to get on with my life, break the occasional law, and not get followed around by an AI dog.
You won't be able to speed anymore. If you go 31 miles per hour, you'll probably get an instant fine in the post in a few years' time.
Shot in the head by an AI sparrow. I don't know where does this. I mean, I don't know where it ends. In all seriousness, I think AI is potentially a way for the UK's economy to bounce back from where it is now, because we don't have the same laws as they do in the EU. But you do have to have some laws around controlling AI, because who's controlling AI? If there's no one controlling AI and it's just coming for us, then we're in trouble.
Yeah, that's the problem with it, isn't it? Look, on this one, I don't really like the look of that AI dog. A little bit, because I'm not really great with dogs anyway, so that one in particular I have a problem with, because it appears to have a mind of its own, and if it did get a mind of its own, then I think we're all in a bit of a pickle. I mean, there it is. It looks like it's got like a tissue box for a head. It does, doesn't it? You look at it on the side. And I think they could end up making them bigger. They could, do you know what I mean? Right now, this is a little one that's walking around, not to scare you.
Yeah.
But imagine that being 10 times the size of it, is what it is. Imagine if you think about RoboCop and the idea of, what's the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger? It wasn't Terminator. It's the same principle. Well, you laugh, but it is the same principle, something coming for you.
Yeah.
And it has
I
its
don't
own...
think it comes to the future, though.
Well, no, this is in the current right now. So it depends what it's been programmed to do, and depends how it interprets that programming. As we've seen with AI, it can tell you all sorts of stuff given the information that it gets. I mean, there's a moment where it's useful, then there's a moment where it's scary. All right, stay with us, because still to come in the Late Show Live, we had the smoking ban for people born after 2008. But is it time to ban the vape? Research now tells us that mango and watermelon flavours, all sounding very innocent, could be among those posing some of the greatest risks. We'll discuss that, but first, let's get an update with your weather. This is the Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, this is your GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. There's a big band of rain making its way across the country at the moment, but even away from that, there will be some pretty hefty showers and some strong gusty winds. Showers already across parts of Scotland and northeast England, but then this spell of persistent rain sweeps up from the southwest. Some relatively high rainfall totals with this, but then it's the showers following in behind across parts of Northern Ireland, much of England and Wales, and later into southern parts of Scotland, which could really pack a punch. Temperature-wise, well, they're near normal for the time of year, but watch out for some strong gusty winds with those showers. They will make it feel a little bit fresher, and definitely so much fresher than it was this time last week. Into this evening, and we still have some of that persistent rain across parts of Scotland. Northern areas a bit more showery, but across central areas it is going to be pretty wet here. And then looking further south, it's these intense thunderstorms that we need to watch out for. They're going to be pretty widespread. They're going to bring frequent lightning, often going to be thundery, and there'll be some large hail mixed in, especially across parts of northern England. Further south, even here the showers could be heavy and thundery at times, but there'll be slightly fewer of them, with some drier, brighter, clearer breaks in between. Overnight, the showers continue. The heaviest ones will largely ease, but there will still be plenty of showers and still some strong, blustery, gusty winds, especially for the time of year. All that does mean temperatures won't drop a huge amount, so most places, particularly the towns and cities, holding up in double digits. But then Thursday's going to be another showery day. Perhaps the showers not quite as intense as some of the ones that we're likely to see through today, but nonetheless, there could still be some rumbles of thunder and some heavy ones mixed in. Any sunny spells will be pretty limited for most, perhaps some towards the south and southeast, but even here, showers will be pushing through and there will still be some strong gusty winds with temperatures, well, looking similar to today. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good evening, welcome back. I'm Nana Acquare. Now, this is something I hate vaping. I think it's grim. One of my exes used to vape instead of smoking, and I hated the vape trail. And in fact, it would give me a rash on my neck. If you ever gave me a kiss and you'd been smoking the thing, I'd get a rash, which was horrible. It's over, thank goodness. Yes, well, it's gone, it's over. But look, fruit-flavoured vapes may be causing more harm to your health than other versions of the product. Researchers have found that flavours such as mango and watermelon have a greater impact on how our genes function, and changes in gene activity are early warning signs for serious diseases like cancer, heart and lung disease. With me now is the Chief Clinical Officer at Bucco Recovery Centre, Dr. Alison Tarlow. Alison, I have always had my suspicions on the vapes, because I have always said, what is in the vape fuel? What is in the juice? What is in there? Is it regulated? And what effect will that have on your body? Because it could have just as bad an effect as nicotine or tobacco or any of the things that are in an actual cigarette.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And in fact, a very recent study came out and has been publicized in the Telegraph speaking about the impact of the fruit flavors and also the type of device that's used for vaping. And certainly we want to take note, and we do acknowledge, of course, that vaping these types of chemicals is not going to be good for you, and are linked to things like cancer and heart disease. However, it's important to also understand that there's not enough research out there and evidence out there. You know, this was a very small study done with about 83 people, half of which were given the measures to look at the fruit flavors and the product in the e-cigarette. And what was ultimately found was, yes, there are some indicators that the chemicals being used do impact the genes in our body, around or a little bit over 3,000 different genes in our body, where we have like 20 to 25,000 genes in our body in the genome. And so it's just important to remember that this is a preliminary early study. This was in a journal article that wasn't necessarily like, you know, the British Medical Journal or JAMA or some of those very big journals that, you know, we rely upon for our information. So yes, is vaping dangerous? I'm sure it's not good for the human body. We also have to consider, is it better than cigarettes? You know, we also have to consider, are we allowing this product to be marketed to perhaps younger people, which we do not want? That would not be a good thing. However, vaping has been very helpful for people who are trying to also get off of cigarettes and then stop smoking entirely.
Well, if it has that effect in the end, then that is good. But if it leaves you with the popcorn lung, which is another problem, isn't it? Even without the flavours, you've got the fact that you're breathing in hot air from a device, and that device has all sorts of things going on. What's the problem with the device and the air that you're breathing through that?
Well, I think that there are a lot of different devices out there. I think that they come from all different countries. You know, there's not, you know, the regulations around some of the uses of these devices is, you know, perhaps its early stages are problematic. You know, vaping has not, in the course of history, been around that long of a time, you know, and in some ways we thought vaping was a step up or an improvement from smoking cigarettes, you know, and again, it's, you know, 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. Yeah, because on the one hand, vaping is not perhaps as bad as smoking, you know, nicotine and tobacco and cigarettes. Well, and at the same time, you don't have to step outside to smoke a vape. People are doing it, you know, covertly in their offices or in the bathroom or whatever.
Well, something you said earlier, we haven't got enough data to know whether it's as dangerous as cigarettes or not. I'll have to leave it there, Dr. Alison Tarlow. Thank you very much. She's the Chief Clinical Officer at Boko Recovery. Thank you. All right, let's swing it back to my panel. GB News comedian and commentator Paul Cox, journalist and commentator Jonathan Liss, and in Washington, D.C., former Obama policy advisor Laurie Watkins and Republican strategist Matthew Hurt. I'm going to start with you, Paul Cox.
A lot of our discussions up to this point about stuff tonight has been about autonomy, things being done to us, data taking from us and then being used in a way we're not too sure about. With regards to vaping, it's a choice. You know, I don't vape, I don't smoke. But it's a choice that people take, and if they want to do that, so this goes back to Matthew being a libertarian. That person's making a choice. I'm happy for them to get on with it. It seems to help a lot of people with quitting smoking, which is a good thing. What I do know as a dad of a 16-year-old is that kids now, they don't smoke anymore. They all vape. My daughter's tried it. She's told me all about it. She didn't like it, thank God. But she's not going to tell me she loves it, is she? Let's face it. But you know, this is the next thing we need to worry about with kids, I think. And the more we know about it, the better.
Matthew Hurt.
You know, this vaping is used primarily as a cessation tool to pull people away from cigarettes. The question is, are there solutions? There aren't any solutions. There are only trade-offs. And so if you've got a smoker who's a lifelong cigarette smoker who transitions to vaping, I think that's a good idea. As Paul hinted, I think there are a lot of young people who are vaping who were not otherwise smoking cigarettes, and so I think that is a parenting issue primarily. But you know, there's a difference between traditional vape, the standard vape flavor, and some of these fruit flavors. I think that if there's additional damage that's being done, maybe worth looking into that. But this is primarily a cessation tool for recovering or cigarette smokers.
All right, Jonathan Liss.
I think that the basic question, which is what your previous talker mentioned, was about relative risks. And I've never seen a study or seen even a scientist suggest that e-cigarettes or vapes are more dangerous than nicotine and tobacco. And so ideally, we'd have a world where people wouldn't necessarily want to, although I'm actually very firmly believe in civil liberties. I think that people should be allowed to smoke and to vape and to take any drug, actually, if they have information and consent to do that. So, you know, people will choose to do that, and so it's really a question about where the law should intervene. I don't believe in banning things, really. I think that it should be a last resort. Obviously, you know, there's an argument about whether you should change the flavours, the packaging, etc., to make it less attractive to kids. But I don't believe in kids, you know, getting kids hooked on anything, let alone sort of, you know, smoke or sort of some kind of chemical in your body. But I don't think that we should ban things as a general principle.
All right. Well, final word to you. My final word to you, Laurie. Your thoughts. You've got about 30 seconds.
Sure. The thing that bothers me the most is when people truly believe that there is no odor, that there is no consequence, and that it's like vaporized air with nothing in it when they're doing that indoors, where they're not supposed to. Schools, I've seen people in TV, like in newsrooms, and I'm like, what are you doing? This is not appropriate. You can't. That would be like if you lit up a cigarette right here, right? So I think that there needs to be more decorum. There needs to be more punishment for people that start doing that indoors, because, like, I agree. I don't care what you do in the comfort of your own home or that you choose to do for yourself, but in public spaces that could affect other people, children, secondhand smoke, whatever it is, just breathing that stuff in and smelling it, there should be regulations against that. And for the most part, there are, but I see it happen all the time.
Well, I was going to say, well, I think it's grim, it's disgusting. I don't think there's enough information about how dangerous it is. And I think we need to be very cautious. I've got to say thank you very much to all of you for spending time with me. This is The Late Show Live. Thank you to my brilliant panel, Laurie, Matthew, Paul, and also Jonathan. Thank you to you at home for your company. It's been a pleasure as ever. Stay tuned, though. Loads more still to come here on GB News. Tomorrow, it's Ben Leo. He's back at midnight. That is 7 o'clock Eastern Time in America. Thank you for watching and have a fabulous evening. God bless.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, this is your GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. There's a big band of rain making its way across the country at the moment, but even away from that, there will be some pretty hefty showers and some strong gusty winds. Showers already across parts of Scotland and northeast England, but then this spell of persistent rain sweeps up from the southwest. Some relatively high rainfall totals with this, but then it's the showers following in behind across parts of Northern Ireland, much of England and Wales, and later into southern parts of Scotland, which could really pack a punch. Temperature-wise, well, they're near normal for the time of year, but watch out for some strong gusty winds with those showers. They will make it feel a little bit fresher, and definitely so much fresher than it was this time last week. Into this evening, and we still have some of that persistent rain across parts of Scotland. Northern areas a bit more showery, but across central areas it is going to be pretty wet here. And then looking further south, it's these intense thunderstorms that we need to watch out for. They're going to be pretty widespread. They're going to bring frequent lightning, often going to be thundery, and there'll be some large hail mixed in, especially across parts of northern England. Further south, even here the showers could be heavy and thundery at times, but there'll be slightly fewer of them with some drier, brighter, clearer breaks in between. Overnight, the showers continue. The heaviest ones will largely ease, but there will still be plenty of showers and still some strong, blustery, gusty winds, especially for the time of year. All that does mean temperatures won't drop a huge amount, so most places, particularly the towns and cities, holding up in double digits. But then Thursday's going to be another showery day. Perhaps the showers not quite as intense as some of the ones that we're likely to see through today, but nonetheless, there could still be some rumbles of thunder and some heavy ones mixed in. Any sunny spells will be pretty limited for most, perhaps some towards the south and southeast, but even here, showers will be pushing through and there will still be some strong gusty winds with temperatures, well, looking similar to today. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me. Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The GB News audience is different, it's unique, because they see through the nonsense.
We want to debate with each other, we want to listen and maybe learn.
We have a chat, that's what we do, we try and have a chat.
They'll watch my programme while they're eating their tea, they'll watch breakfast while they're busy getting their kids ready for school.
We want to hear what matters to you, what is news for you.
And what's brought you out here today?
What are the biggest issues affecting this particular area?
The audience are the best thing about GB News.
Their friends, their family. They're people who need to have their voices heard.
They're passionate about the channel, they're passionate about what they believe in.
The one thing about GB News is you get a chance to speak.
Talk to me about why so many people have gathered here today.
Do you want to say something back in return? The GB News audience is what makes GB News special.
It's incredible to see.
They shape our programmes, they shape our output, and they shape our channel.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
It's 9 p.m. I'm Patrick Christie's. Tonight. Thousands gather to protest tonight after body cam footage was released of Henry Novak's final moments. And
been stabbed? Whereabouts? Don't think you have, mate.
3 of the Henry Novak police officers are still serving. Strip them of their uniforms. And
but I suggest the rest of us respond to this with pure, cold rage.
It is inflammatory, it is extremist, it is divisive, it's everything the family didn't want.
Was Nigel Farage right to say that we should all rage over Henry Novak's killing? Plus,